Chapter 486. In the end, Limu couldn't respond to someone's true feelings with a fake one. In front of the Empress, he was Limu. In front of Phantom Princess, he was Little Snake. There was no conflict. Phantom Princess's shoulders were as soft as ever. With Limu standing behind her, it was as if they had returned to the past. At some point, Phantom Princess suddenly leaned against him. Then, she began to sob quietly. In front of Hulu and Hujioha, she had to hold on because she wanted to be their pillar of support. Only in front of Limu did she not need to maintain her image. In front of Limu, she had no image at all. In the past 2 months, she had experienced a sudden change. She had to hide from Bai Xian's subordinates. In the midst of endless despair, she welcomed hope. Today, her father reappeared, Little Snake returned, and they regained control of Thousand Fox Nation. It all felt like a dream. She was afraid that it was just a dream. When she woke up, she would have to face the cruel reality. Limu let her lean on him. In the past few days, Phantom Princess had experienced too much. If she couldn't vent, these emotions would pile up in her heart and easily trigger her inner demons. After crying for a while, Phantom Princess stood up again. With her back facing Limu, she wiped away her tears and calmed down. From now on, she was the Empress of Thousand Fox Nation. She wouldn't easily shed a tear. At that moment, Limu suddenly felt the spirit snail vibrate. Ever since he left the divine capital, the spirit snail had been vibrating several times a day. However, because he was in Thousand Fox Nation, Limu hadn't contacted the Empress. The Empress also knew that Limu was inconvenient. After a few vibrations, she would give up. But this time, Limu didn't ignore the Empress. The matter of Thousand Fox Nation had been resolved. He could talk to the Empress openly and report the progress of the mission. As soon as Limu took out the spirit snail, it stopped vibrating. The Empress on the other side must have died. Limu infused his spiritual energy and tried again. Divine Capital, Li Manor. A trace of disappointment flashed through Zhou Yi's eyes. He habitually put away the spirit snail. Suddenly, the spirit snail in his hand vibrated slightly. A hint of joy flashed across her face, and she immediately channeled her mana. Limu's voice came from the other side. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty, I've made you worry." Zhou Yi couldn't wait to ask, "When will you come back?" Limu said, "Your Majesty can rest assured. This subject has already helped the Huan family regain control of the Thousand Fox country. It won't be easy for the demon sect and Tian Lang country to unify the demon country." Zhou Yi asked, "In other words, you are now using the spirit snail to talk to me. You don't have to be sneaky anymore." Limu replied, "Yes, Your Majesty. I can contact you at any time." Zhou Yi said eagerly, "Then take out the monocular. Xiao Bai and Wan Wan miss you. They want to see you." Bai Tingxin came over and quickly said, "I miss you too." When Wan Wan and Xiao Bai heard the noise, they both ran out of their rooms. Bai Yinxin gave up on refining a cauldron of pills and quickly came to the courtyard as well. Limu took out a mirror from his storage space. This mirror was as tall as a person and was called the monocular. It was also a magic treasure for transmitting information. The spirit snail could only transmit sound, but the monocular could transmit images. When used together, it could complete a real-time video call. This mirror originally belonged to the imperial court. There was only one pair in the entire Great Zhou. The Empress couldn't give Limu anything that belonged to the imperial court. But this time, he was carrying out an important secret mission, so the Empress gave it to him in passing. Before leaving, she gave Limu many treasures. Limu still hadn't used most of them. Limu held the mirror vertically in front of him and channeled his transcendence energy. A vortex appeared on the surface of the mirror. Soon, an image appeared in the vortex. It was the courtyard of his home that Li Mu was familiar with. The Empress, the sisters Xin and Tingxin, as well as Wan Wan and Xiao Bai were standing in the courtyard. They looked at Li Mu in the mirror expectantly. The smile on Zhou Yi's face froze when she saw Li Mu's face. She stared at Li Mu's face and asked coldly, "What happened to your face?" Li Mu touched his face and realized that the scars were still there. Although it would only take a few hours to remove these scars, he didn't treat them to avoid arousing suspicion. Even through the monocular, Li Mu could feel the Empress' anger. Li Mu explained, "It's just a small injury. It's not a big deal." Li Mu wanted to simply brush it off, but the Empress didn't plan to stop. She looked at the scars that extended from Li Mu's face to his neck and said, "Take off your clothes." Li Mu was stunned for a moment. Then, he shook his head and said, "Your Majesty, this isn't good." Zhou Yi said again, "Take it off." Her voice was heavy and her tone was unquestionable. Li Mu was silent for a moment. Then, he slowly took off his outer clothes and revealed his body that was full of scars. Wan Wan and Xiao Bai saw this and cried out in surprise. They covered their mouths with their hands as tears welled up in their eyes. Bai Yinxin looked worried. Bai Tingxin gripped her sword and gritted her teeth. "Who did this? I'm going to kill him." The Empress didn't say anything. However, Li Mu knew that the more silent she was, the angrier she was. He quickly explained, "Your Majesty, don't worry. These are all minor injuries. They will be healed in 2 or 3 days." Zhou Yi looked at the scars on Li Mu's body and asked, "Who hurt you? Was it that fox spirit from Thousand Fox Nation?" Huan Ji walked in front of Li Mu and looked at Zhou Yi in the mirror. She said unhappily, "Who are you calling a fox spirit? Why did he suffer so many injuries? Others might not know, but you do. If it wasn't for you, why would he be a spy by Bai Xian's side? He risked his life to gain Bai Xian's trust. Everything he did was for you. What right do you have to blame others?" Huan Ji looked at the woman in the mirror and let out a long breath of resentment. She had been holding this breath in her heart for a long time. She believed that she treated Little Snake as well as Zhou Yi treated Li Mu. However, he was only loyal to Zhou Yi despite both of them being subordinates. Huan Ji couldn't accept this and took the opportunity to speak her mind. In the monocular, Zhou Yi's chest heaved up and down. It took a long time for her to calm down. She looked at Li Mu and said, "I want you to come back now. Immediately, immediately. Don't bother with the demon nation's matters. It doesn't matter if they unify or not. If they dare to invade the Great Zhou, I will gather the strength of the entire nation to flatten the demon nation and eliminate all future troubles." Li Mu knew that the Empress was extremely angry. She might really do such a thing. However, he had worked so hard for so long to resolve the demon nation's matters peacefully. If the Great Zhou and the demon nation went to war, the people would be the ones to suffer. At that time, all the efforts he and the Empress had put in to unite the people would go to waste. Once the faith of the people regressed, it would be difficult to gather them again. In this way, she would be forever bound to the throne, unable to leave. Li Mu quickly said to the monocular, "Your Majesty, please calm down. Leave the demon nation's matters to me. Once I'm done here, I will return as soon as possible." After saying that, he put away the monocular without waiting for the Empress' response. After letting out a sigh of relief, Li Mu looked at Huan Ji helplessly and scolded, "Why are you saying all this?" Huan Ji put her hands on her hips and said angrily, "She wronged me. Why can't I say anything? Besides, you were injured because of her. Anyone can blame me except her." Li Mu waved his hand and said, Okay. "I won't blame you." He had just been freed from the Empress. He did not want to be entangled with Huan Ji again. However, Huan Ji did not plan to let Li Mu go. She asked, "In your heart, is Shou Yi more important or am I more important?" Li Mu thought about it and said, "In Li Mu's heart, your majesty is more important. In my little snake's heart, you are more important." After all, the two of them would never meet. The next time he used the monocular to video call the Empress, he would avoid Huan Ji. That would solve this problem perfectly. Phantom Princess didn't force Li Mu any further because she knew that this was the best answer she could give him. She clenched her teeth and said, "Now you are my little snake. Go and get water. I want to wash my feet." Li Mu rolled his eyes and asked, "Do you want me to help you wash up?" He was just taking care of this little fox's emotions. Things were different now. Li Mu could let her have her way, but she should not think of ordering him around like a servant. Fantasy Princess didn't show any resistance and said, "Okay, do you want to bathe together? Anyways, I owe you countless favors. Why don't you be my empress? I'll use my entire life to repay you." Anyways, Bai Xian has already prepared everything. Li Mu waved his hand and said, "Bai Xian is also a heavenly fox. He doesn't care about favors. You don't have to take it to heart." Huan Ji snorted coldly and said, "He is not worthy of being called a heavenly fox. Karma is not clear. He will never become a heavenly fox. The ninth realm did not exist in this world. No one could cultivate it. Therefore, there was no need to follow the heavenly fox's rules." Li Mu planned to have a good talk with Huan Ji. Suddenly, he turned his head and looked outside the palace. In the distance, there was an extremely powerful demonic aura. It was quickly approaching. Chapter 487. Outside of Thousand Fox Nation. A silver light streaked across the sky like a shooting star and flew toward Thousand Fox Nation. Along with the silver light came a powerful undisguised demonic aura. Even though they were far away, the demons of the Thousand Fox Kingdom still felt like the end of the world was near. Li Mu and Huan Ji walked out of the room immediately. The primordial spirit of the 10,000 Illusions Lord and Huan Ji's brother, Huan Yun, floated in the air and looked at the silver light warily. Hu Jiu, Hu Lu, and more elders of Meizong's sect also flew into the sky. Under the powerful aura, they were terrified. Although they had already taken control of Thousand Fox Nation, no one would forget that they had an even more difficult opponent. Heavenly Wolf Tribe. Dong! Just as everyone's hearts were filled with fear, a deafening explosion suddenly sounded in their ears. A bell rang from the sky. In the sky, the silver light was about to descend upon Thousand Fox City in a domineering manner. However, it seemed to have collided with something and was sent flying back. After stopping, a figure was revealed in the silver light. It was a middle-aged man in silver. A silver wolf head was embroidered on the left side of his chest. That was the symbol of the Heavenly Wolf Tribe. There was only one person in the Heavenly Wolf Tribe who had such a powerful aura. It was the patriarch of the Heavenly Wolf Tribe, the Seventh Realm Green Wolf King. The Green Wolf King was a very powerful deterrent in the demon nation. Ordinary demon kings would inevitably feel fear when they heard his name. However, the Green Wolf King was in a sorry state at this moment. His hair was disheveled and his body was suspended in the air. He held his head with one hand and there was a bruise on his forehead. At the same time, there was a flash of light in the sky above Thousand Fox Nation. The shadow of a huge bell appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The bell was so huge that it covered the sky and covered the entire Thousand Fox Nation. The Green Wolf King was sent flying back because he collided with the bell. No one knew what kind of Dharma treasure it was. It could even stop a Seventh Realm cultivator. After the Green Wolf King was stopped, he looked at the huge bell shadow in front of him and snorted. He formed a seal with one hand and the surrounding spirit chi quickly condensed. A huge ball of light appeared above his head. The ball of light was like a moon. It was hundreds of feet wide and smashed toward the huge bell shadow. Dong! Although the moonlight was huge, it was not worth mentioning in front of the giant bell. After the collision, the moonlight disappeared, but the giant bell only let out a soft sound, like a burp, and continued to envelop the Thousand Fox country. The Green Wolf King looked at the giant bell and finally stopped looking down on it. His attack with 60% of his strength couldn't even shake the bell. This bell was something. A dim light flashed in his eyes. He turned into a stream of light again and drilled into the ground. A moment later, the Blue Wolf King crawled out of the ground with a dark face. The bottom of this huge bell actually formed a formation of its own. It was impossible to use Earth Escape to attack it directly. The Green Wolf King transformed into a 1,000-meter-tall demon with the head of a wolf and the body of a human. Its two extremely sharp claws landed heavily on the bell. The bell only trembled slightly, but it remained standing steadily. The giant wolf let out a roar after a few more fruitless attacks. It raised 100-jong-tall mountain and smashed it down onto the giant bell. The mountain crumbled, but the giant bell remained unharmed. In the Thousand Fox country, both the demon citizens and the powerhouses of Meizong sect were stunned by the scene outside. This was the first time they witnessed the true strength of a seventh realm powerhouse. The Green Wolf King transformed into 1,000 jong tall and used the mountain as a weapon. With a raise of his hand, the mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. Even so, he could not do anything to the giant bell. Seeing that the Green Wolf King was getting crazier and crazier, but still could not do anything to the giant bell, the demons of the Thousand Fox country finally relaxed. They no longer worried and began to watch the Green Wolf King's performance as if they were watching a show. Li Mu looked at the demons in the sky and shouted, "What are you all gathered here for? Don't you need to work? Come down and do what you need to do." The demons dispersed in a hubbub. Only a few figures did not move. The Green Wolf King used all kinds of moves, but no matter if it was a spell attack or a direct attack, he could not break the giant bell. It was the first time he was so embarrassed since he reached the seventh realm. After trying for a while, he finally gave up. His body turned back to normal size and floated outside the giant bell. He said sternly, "Lord of Illusions, you're a seventh realm demon. Do you only know how to hide in the mountains? Are you a fox demon or a turtle demon?" The Lord of Illusion's essence spirit floated above the palace and said calmly, "What does it have to do with you?" The Green Wolf King said angrily, "Do you dare to come out and fight me fair and square?" The Lord of Illusions looked at him and said indifferently, "If you have the ability, come in and fight me." "You coward! Come in first." Separated by a bell, the two seventh realm powerhouses started a different form of battle. Naturally, Lord of Illusions would not go out. He had lost his physical body, and his primordial spirit was severely injured. Now, he had less than 10% of his strength left. He was not much better off than the elder of the Glory sect who had escaped. When his essence spirit fully recovered, he would be able to return to the seventh realm. However, with only the essence spirit and no physical body, his strength would still be reduced. Li Mu did not release the demon corpses. When the sage sect elder escaped, he had exploded his body. The demon corpses were all damaged to varying degrees. It would take some time for them to fully recover. He wanted to refine the Lord of Illusion's body, but after thinking about it, he decided to return it to him. It was better to use his own body than to possess someone else's. The stronger the Lord of Illusions was, the safer Illusion Princess would be. Moreover, since he had reconciled with Illusion Princess, he would not be able to explain to her if he refined her father secretly. After thinking about it carefully, Li Mu looked at Illusion Princess and said, "I have a gift for you." Illusion Princess turned around and asked expectantly, "What gift?" Li Mu waved his hand and the Lord of Illusion's body appeared at her feet. While Illusion Princess was still in a daze, the essence spirit of the Lord of Illusions, who was bickering with the Green Wolf King, suddenly felt something and looked at Limu and Illusion Princess. The next moment, his essence spirit turned into a beam of light and entered the body on the ground. The body suddenly opened its eyes. The Lord of Illusions floated up and clenched his fists. He looked at Limu with burning eyes and asked, "How did you get my body?" Limu said casually, "I picked it up on the way." The 10,000 Illusions Lord could not hide the smile on his face. He did not ask Limu about the details. Instead, he laughed heartily and said, "With this body, this seat will be able to recover my strength quickly. Kid, this seat will remember this favor." He flew to a palace and wanted to merge his body and essence spirit as soon as possible. Illusion Princess frowned and looked at Limu. She asked, "This is your gift to me?" Limu said, "What? This gift is quite valuable, right?" Illusion Princess said unhappily, "This is clearly for my father." Limu said casually, "He just stole it. Why don't you go and get it back?" Illusion Princess snorted and asked, "Do you usually give Zhou gifts like this too?" Illusion Princess seemed to like comparing herself with the Empress. But this time, she was wrong. Limu shook his head and said, "I don't usually give Her Majesty gifts. It is always Her Majesty who gives me gifts." "Oh right, you have to return me that whip. That was also given by Her Majesty. If she asks about it, I will not be able to answer. Who wants her things?" Illusion Princess returned the whip to Limu and asked, "What else did she give you?" Limu counted with his fingers and said, "A lot. There are spiritual jades, houses, all kinds of tributes, fulu, treasures, pills, spiritual snails, mirrors, etc. She also personally taught me cultivation, taught Xiaobai, taught Wanwan, and often gave Wanwan and Xiaobai gifts." Speaking of the things that the Empress gave him, Limu really couldn't count them all in a short time. Not only him, even Wanwan and Xiaobai received many gifts from the Empress. Illusion Princess took a deep breath. She finally knew why Limu was so loyal to the Empress of Great Zhou. She looked at him unhappily and said, "These things, I can also give them to you." Limu looked her up and down, then shook his head and said, "Forget it, I don't lack anything now. You can keep them for yourself." Illusion Princess stood in place. She understood Limu's meaning. Right now, she really didn't have anything. She even had to rely on Limu for everything. She was also the Empress of a country, but she couldn't compare to Zhou Yi. She took a deep breath and looked at Limu seriously. She said, "My little snake won't lose to Zhou Yi's Limu. Just you wait. Although I don't have anything now, soon, what Zhou Yi can give you, I can also give you." Limu didn't want to hurt Illusion Princess's fragile self-esteem. He smiled and said, "We'll see." In the sky, the Blue Wolf King stood alone. The moment something happened in Thousand Fox, the Celestial Wolf King sent him a message. After receiving the news, he immediately rushed over. At this moment, he was only one step away from Thousand Fox, but this step seemed to be thousands of miles away. Chapter 488. Thousand Fox Country. In the Yao country, the change of imperial power didn't affect the lower-class Yao citizens too much. Whether it was the Bai family or the Huan family, they still did what they were supposed to do. Now that the Bai clan had been overthrown, what they felt the most was noise. For the past few days, no matter if it was day or night, there would be the sound of bells ringing above their heads. They didn't know when the Green Wolf King would give up. Although they argued, they weren't worried at all. After today, everyone knew that the Blue Wolf King couldn't break in. Although they couldn't leave, at least they were safe. In the sky, the Blue Wolf King's face was haggard and his green eyes were bloodshot. In these 3 days, he had thought of countless ways, but he still couldn't break the giant bell. This bell couldn't be broken by a Realm 7 cultivator. After countless attempts, he had already given up. He turned into a ray of silver light and disappeared into the sky without looking back. In Thousand Fox Country, Limu also let out a long sigh of relief. Although the Blue Wolf King couldn't break in, it wasn't a good idea for him to knock on the bell every day. The noise made people so upset that they couldn't even focus on cultivation. In the past few days, Hu Jiu, Hu Lu, and the other Meizong sect elders who were rescued completely controlled Thousand Fox Country with absolute force. As for Bai Xian's subordinates, they all chose to submit after seeing what happened to Bai Xian. The treatment of these people naturally couldn't be compared to the Meizong sect elders who didn't betray them. Their bodies were sealed with demonic arts. If they betrayed them again, their lives would be in Huan Ji's hands. As for the Bai family cultivators, including the realm's 6th ancestor, they were all sucked dry by the Lord of Illusions and became prisoners. After absorbing the lifetime cultivation of a realm's 6 fox demon, the Lord of Illusions' injuries had recovered a little. However, he was still no match for the Blue Wolf King. Therefore, Limu couldn't leave for the time being. The number of top cultivators by Huan Ji's side was still too few. As soon as he left, the Blue Wolf King would come back and Thousand Fox Country would be destroyed. Somewhere in front of the Empress Palace, Limu sat on the steps, looking at the sky with melancholy. Although the Thousand Fox Nation's crisis was temporarily averted, he could not return just yet. At the very least, he had to wait until the Thousand Fox Nation had the strength to fully establish itself in the Yao Nation. Moreover, the Thousand Fox Nation, which was still under the threat of the Blue Wolf King, could not do without him. That old wolf and diabolism would never give up so easily. In the distant Tian Lang Kingdom, the Blue Wolf King had already returned to his cave abode. An almost transparent shadow floated in the cave. The Green Wolf King looked at the shadow and said in a low voice, "That old fox, Lord of Myriad Illusions, got a giant bell treasure from somewhere. With that giant bell protecting the Thousand Fox Nation, even I can't break in. That's the treasure of the Fulu School. It's called the Dao Bell. It requires at least 3 experts of the same cultivation level as you to break it open." The Blue Wolf King's expression changed. "Does that mean we can't do anything to the Thousand Fox Nation?" The shadow snorted. "What are you panicking for? At least 2 7th realm cultivators are needed to stop 3 7th realm cultivators. Lord of Myriad Illusions will need at least 3 to 5 years to recover to the 7th realm. As long as I transcend, you and I can work together to break this bell." The Blue Wolf King asked, "It won't be easy for the Honorable Elder to recover. Why don't we invite the other 2 Honorable Elders? The 3 of us can work together and destroy that bell. This time, Myriad Illusions will have nowhere to run." The shadow looked at the Blue Wolf King and said rudely, "Use your wolf brain and think about it. What does the Fulu School's Dao Bell mean to the Thousand Fox Nation? It's a warning from the Fulu School. If the Sage Sect sends another 7th realm cultivator into the Yao Nation, do you think the Fulu School and the Great Zhou Court will just stand by and do nothing?" The Blue Wolf King was enlightened. "I didn't think of that," the shadow continued. "The Yao Nation's matters can only be solved by the Yao Nation itself. Once one side interferes, the other side will definitely interfere too. At that time, even if the 3 of us work together with you, we won't be able to defeat the Fulu School and the Great Zhou Court. Once that happens, the Yao Nation will cease to exist. When 7th realm cultivators fought, the destructive power was too strong. It was almost impossible for them to fight head-on. If the 7th realm cultivators from both sides really joined in the battle, it would be a disaster for the entire Yao Nation. This was something that neither side wanted to see." The Blue Wolf King asked, "Then what do we do now?" The shadow said, "I need to recover my strength first. This requires a large amount of essence, blood and soul. But before that, I need to find a suitable body. I don't know where the Thousand Fox Nation got so many powerful demon corpses. If I can get one." The Blue Wolf King said, with that bell, it's impossible to sneak into the Thousand Fox Nation, unless, as he spoke, his voice trailed off. In the Tianlang Nation, the former great elder of the demon sect, who was cultivating in his cave, received a message that the Blue Wolf King had something to discuss with him. He used to be the great elder of the demon sect, but now he could only be the Blue Wolf King's guardian. Although the tiger demon was unhappy, there was nothing he could do. Without the strength of the seventh realm, he could only be ordered around like this. He flew to a mountain peak and came to the Blue Wolf King's cave. He saw a soul shadow floating in the cave. After being stunned for a moment, he immediately bowed and said, "Greetings, esteemed elder." As soon as he said that, the tiger demon felt a sense of danger. He was only one step away from the seventh realm. He had a vague feeling that made his hair stand on end. It was as if he had encountered a life-threatening crisis. However, this was the Tianlang Nation, and he was in the Blue Wolf King's cave. What kind of danger could there be? The tiger demon looked at the soul shadow and seemed to realize something. He was shocked and quickly retreated toward the cave entrance. However, the Blue Wolf King was already standing there. In the Tianlang Nation, a tiger's roar suddenly came from somewhere and attracted the attention of many demons. However, after that roar, there was no more sound. The demons were confused for a moment and began to cultivate again. In the Blue Wolf King's cave, the tiger demon stood in front of the Blue Wolf King. He lowered his head and clenched his fists. He grinned and said, "This body is not bad. After absorbing its demon soul, I can at least recover half of my strength. It's up to you now." The Blue Wolf King nodded and said, "Leave it to me." In the Thousand Fox Nation. In the palace hall, the demons were arguing about something. The Bai family had lost control of the Thousand Fox Nation and became prisoners. The demons of the Thousand Fox Nation could not be without a leader. They needed a new king. However, the demons had different opinions about the candidate for the new king. Logically speaking, if it were not for Elder Huan Ji, all the demons present, including Grand Elder Huan Yun, would still be prisoners. With her contributions, it was natural for her to become the new king of the Thousand Fox Nation. However, compared to Huan Yun's strength, Huan Ji's strength was too weak. If the king of a nation was only based on contributions, then Ing-Chi should be the king. A fifth realm fox demon said, "Although we wouldn't be where we are today without Lord Huan Ji, I think the Yao nation is in constant conflict and the Thousand Fox Nation is in a precarious situation. If the king is not at the sixth realm, it will be difficult to convince the public and protect the Thousand Fox Nation. Grand Elder Huan Yun is more suitable for the position." "You're wrong." At the front of the crowd, a young man said, "When it comes to protecting the Thousand Fox Nation, I'm afraid even Grand Elder Huan Yun is not enough. If a sixth realm cultivator can protect the Thousand Fox Nation, why would all of you be prisoners?" In the past few days, these elders had learned the identity of the young man who was often with Lord Huan Ji. He was from the Great Zhou court and had come to ally with the Thousand Fox Nation to fight against the Celestial Wolf tribe. In this incident, he had helped Lord Huan Ji deal with Bai Xian. As for the more specific inside story, they were not very clear. The fox demon looked at Li Mu and said, "This is a matter of the Thousand Fox Nation. Please don't interfere." The fox demon was very polite and reasonable. As an outsider, Li Mu should not interfere in the internal affairs of the Thousand Fox Nation. Therefore, he did not say anything else. At this moment, some other elders also spoke. "I also think that Lord Huan Yun is more suitable to be the king." "I agree." "I agree too." That elder's analysis was reasonable, and the other elders also agreed. Although Hu Jiao and Hu Lu wanted Lord Huan Ji to be the king, compared to so many elders, their words were insignificant. Li Mu looked at Huan Ji. Huan Ji shook her head slightly and said, "Forget it. It's the same if Huan Yun is the king. It won't affect the cooperation with the Great Zhou. To Li Mu, although they were both members of the Huan family, it was too different if Huan Yun or Huan Ji were the king of the Thousand Fox Nation. He and Huan Ji knew each other very well, but he had barely spoken to Huan Yun, let alone understand him. The two sides seemed to be harmonious now, but that might not be the case in the future. If Huan Yun was the king, it was equivalent to planting a huge hidden danger in the future. He did not go through so much trouble to leave the Empress and come here from so far away to help someone he was not familiar with. Li Mu looked at Huan Ji. A woman's words could not be trusted completely. A few days ago, she said that the position of the Empress was reserved for him, but now she changed her mind. Huan Yun originally did not plan to be the king, but seeing so many elders supporting him, and his sister did not seem to have any objections, he was about to reluctantly agree. Li Mu, who was beside him, cupped his fists and said, "Since the Huan family has regained control of the Thousand Fox Nation, I have to go back. Until we meet again." After he finished speaking, he whistled. The law bell floating above the Thousand Fox Nation quickly shrank to the size of a palm and floated on Li Mu's shoulder. Li Mu's mind moved again, and the 8 demon corpses that were sleeping underground also broke out of the ground and floated in the air. Li Mu walked out of the hall and flew up. He waved at the people who followed him out and said, "Everyone, goodbye." After he finished speaking, he flew out of the Thousand Fox Nation with the 8 demon corpses. The elders of the Thousand Fox Nation looked at this scene in a daze. They never thought that the Law Bell and the 8 super powerhouses belonged to this person. Now that the Law Bell was gone and the powerhouses had left, if the Blue Wolf King found out, the Thousand Fox Nation would be occupied by the Celestial Wolf Tribe in less than a day. They would have to go through the tragedy that they had experienced before again. Once this person left, they would not have the chance to see him again. Huan Yun was stunned for a moment, then he quickly said to Huan Ji, "Quickly go and chase him back." Huan Ji flew into the sky and chased after Li Mu. Li Mu flew slowly in the sky. Soon, a familiar aura caught up to him from behind. Huan Ji grabbed Li Mu's wrist and said, "What are you doing?" Li Mu looked at her unhappily and said, "I want to ask you what you're doing. Have you forgotten what I told you just now? If you rely on others, you can only be a queen or a princess. You can only be a queen if you rely on yourself. In order to help you reach this step, I've suffered so much and put in so much effort. Now you want to give up? Are you worthy of me?" Huan Ji said helplessly, "But that's the decision of all the elders." Li Mu snorted and said, "A bunch of 5th-level trash. Do they have the right to speak here?" Huan Ji said slowly, "I'm also at the 5th level." Li Mu said, "You have me. Do they have me?" He looked at Huan Ji and said indifferently, "Unless you don't want to be the ruler of the Thousand Fox Nation, no one can take it away from you." Huan Ji naturally wanted to be the ruler of the Thousand Fox Nation. At the very least, she wouldn't lose to Zhou Yi in terms of status. When everyone stood on the opposite side of her, there was still one person who stood firmly behind her. She had never felt like this before. Ever since she learned that the little snake was Li Mu, she was very envious of Zhou Yi. Looking at Li Mu, Huan Ji felt a trace of sweetness in her heart. She finally experienced some of Zhou Yi's happiness. She lowered her head and whispered to Li Mu, "Let's go back." Li Mu didn't really want to leave. He slowly flew back to the Thousand Fox Nation with Huan Ji. As soon as they landed on the square in front of the palace, Huan Yun said directly, "I'm not interested in the throne of the Thousand Fox Nation. Huan Ji, you should sit there." Then, he looked at Li Mu and asked, "What do you think?" Li Mu smiled and said, "This is a matter of the Thousand Fox Nation. As an outsider, it's not appropriate for me to interfere." Huan Yun smiled helplessly. The veins on the foreheads of the elders present twitched. He didn't just not interfere. Not only did he make the decision, but he also forced them to accept it. Either Elder Huangji became the ruler of the Thousand Fox Nation, or the Thousand Fox Nation was destroyed by the Celestial Wolf Nation. They could only choose one of the two choices. They didn't have a choice at all. The fox demon who opposed Huangji just now squeezed out a smile and said, "I'm confused. It's all because of Lord Huangji that we have today. She should be the ruler." As soon as he finished speaking, the other elders also agreed. The seventh elder is right. I agree. I agree too. No one is more suitable than Lord Huangji, the Thousand Fox Nation. It was noon today. No matter what the demon citizens were doing, when it was close to noon, they all walked out of their houses and walked to the streets, looking in the direction of the palace. Many people had already gathered at the entrance of the palace. Today, the new queen of the Thousand Fox Nation was about to be crowned. Chapter 489. Greetings, Queen. Greetings, Queen. Long live the Queen and unite the demon nation. Phantasmagoria was holding her coronation ceremony in front of the palace. Li Mu had just finished communicating with Qin Shi on the stone steps in front of a palace. The materials needed to refine the two demonic corpses had already been sent over by the messenger a month ago. Because the materials were sufficient, Qin Shi, who originally planned to refine the two demonic corpses for 49 days, decided to extend the time to 81 days. 9 was the extreme number, and the extreme of 9 was also the limit of the refining time. After 81 days of refining, the two demon corpses would be unimaginably tough. Even a true 7th realm cultivator would have a hard time dealing with them. Li Mu sat on the steps. Suddenly, his vision darkened. He looked up and saw Phantasmagoria standing in front of him. She held a scepter in her hand and wore a crown on her head. She wore a red robe that was similar to the Empress Dragon robe, but embroidered on it was the 9-tailed celestial fox. Li Mu was gratified. Under his tireless efforts, this fox had finally become the Empress. It could be said that he had raised her single-handedly. Phantasmagoria looked down at Li Mu and said, "Follow me." Seeing her walk into the palace, Li Mu walked in as well. Phantasmagoria stood in the palace. The top of the scepter in her hand was embedded with a gem that emitted a faint fluorescent light. Li Mu's vision blurred. Suddenly, he appeared in another space. This space was not big. It could not be compared to the Demon Emperor space or the Empress Secret Garden. But the things in the space made Li Mu's throat move uncontrollably. Magic treasures were scattered all over the place. Spiritual herbs were piled up like a mountain. Just breathing in the medicinal fragrance caused Li Mu's magic power to circulate faster. There were countless spirit jades, and all of them were of high quality. Li Mu saw several millstone-sized treasures with a single glance. This kind of spirit jade was simply a top-grade material for setting up a spirit gathering array. This was obviously the treasury of the Thousand Fox Nation. Although transcendent treasures were not very attractive to Li Mu, he had never seen so many spiritual jades before. There were mountains of spiritual medicine piled up here, and it was likely that there were more spiritual medicines here than in the Talisman sect and the Empress combined. After all, the Yao nation located in the life state was covered in forests and was rich in natural treasures. In this aspect, the Yao nation had a unique advantage. Phantasmagoria generously waved her hand at Li Mu and said, "Take whatever you like." "Is Shou-Yi as generous as me?" Li Mu looked at Phantasmagoria in shock. What was the meaning of this? This little fox who had just been crowned wanted to prove that she was more generous than the Empress? However, it was true that the Empress did not let him choose casually. But with the Empress's support, whether it was spirit jades, magic treasures, or other things, he did not lack. Li Mu waved his hand and said, "You can keep it. I don't lack these." Phantasmagoria frowned and said, "Just choose when I let you choose. Why didn't you refuse Shou-Yi?" The Empress gave him things, not quantity, but quality. Every one of them could be of great use at a critical time. Phantasmagoria was more like an explosive fox. She was generous, but her temperament had not caught up yet. Limu did not have the heart to discourage her. He chose some spirit jades and some spiritual herbs before Phantasmagoria took him away. The first thing Phantasmagoria did after she was crowned was to generously bring Limu into her little treasure trove and let him choose whatever he liked. She wanted to let him know that she could do what Zhou-Yi could do, and she could do it better. When she returned to her bedroom, she saw Hu Jiao and Hu Lu standing outside the hall with worried expressions. She walked up and asked, "What's wrong?" Hu Lu sighed softly and said, "The elders have all returned to their respective abodes to cultivate with the excuse of recuperating. We have too few people who can be used." Thousand Fox Nation had gone through two major changes. Maizong no longer existed. The elders of Maizong and her personal guards were either dead or betrayed her. Now, Thousand Fox Nation only had a dozen or so Fifth Realm cultivators who could be used. They were the backbone of the nation's defense. However, the Demon Nation had always worshipped the strong. Although Phantasmagoria eventually became the queen of Thousand Fox Nation under Limu's threat, she did not convince the elders from the bottom of their hearts. Now that Phantasmagoria had been crowned queen, the only subordinates she could truly trust were Hu Lu and Hu Jiao. She lacked her true confidence. If she did not have enough strong subordinates, then the queen's position would be meaningless. After truly becoming the ruler of a nation, Phantasmagoria finally understood the difficulties of being in a high position. Not only did she lack strong subordinates, but she also lacked the corresponding experience in how to manage the affairs of Thousand Fox Nation. It was already so difficult to manage a small demon nation, let alone the great Zhou nation. If she did not do a good job, wouldn't it mean that she was far inferior to Zhou-Yi? Phantasmagoria thought for a while and ordered, "Don't worry about the elders for now. Choose some loyal subordinates and form a team of personal guards. I will give you some spiritual jades and distribute them to them so that they can cultivate well. I will take care of the other matters myself." In the past few days, Phantasmagoria was so busy with the various affairs of the demon nation that she did not have much time to care about Limu. 5 days later, Limu walked into Phantasmagoria's bedroom with 2 snakeskin bags. He threw the 2 snakeskin bags on the ground. Phantasmagoria, who was thinking about how to reorganize Thousand Fox Nation, looked up and asked in confusion, "What are these?" Limu pointed to one of the big bags and said, "This bag contains transformation pills. It can allow demons to transform in advance." Then he pointed to a small bag and said, "This bag contains breakthrough pills. It can greatly increase the chances of demons at the peak of the 4th realm advancing to the 5th realm. I refined these using the spiritual medicine you gave me. Choose some subordinates you trust and distribute them." Hu Jiao and Hu Lu looked at the 2 snakeskin bags that Limu casually threw on the ground, their eyes shining. Although there were no 5th realm cultivators in their newly formed personal guards, there were many at the peak of the 4th realm. Even if some of them could advance to the 5th realm, it would immediately solve the problem of the queen's personal guards not having any strong subordinates. As for the transformation pills, although they could not create a large number of strong cultivators, the things that demons could do in their human forms were much more than when they were in their beast forms. Creating a group of demons that could transform into human forms would also solve the problem of having no subordinates. Hu Jiao looked at Limu expectantly and asked, "Do you have any pills that can allow demons to advance from the 5th realm to the 6th realm?" Limu glanced at her and said, "No, we don't have enough spiritual medicine. You should focus on your cultivation. Even if we did, you don't even have a body. It's useless to eat it." Limu was already familiar with refining pills of this quality. He had already seen that Phantasmagoria had no subordinates. Even if she temporarily had Thousand Fox Nation, once he left, she would still be easily turned into a mere figurehead. The most direct method was to personally cultivate a group of trusted subordinates for her, just like how Li Mu had done for the Empress. In fact, Phantasmagoria's current situation was very similar to the Empress's 2 years ago. Solving Phantasmagoria's problem was even simpler. In the Demon Nation, the fist was the absolute law. First, he would create a group of strong subordinates for her. Before he left, he would also leave the 8 demon corpses with her as her trump card for self-protection, as well as a deterrent to her subordinates. It would also be a weapon against the Celestial Wolf Nation. In this way, the demonic path holy sect would not be able to use the Celestial Wolf tribe to unify the Demon Nation in a short period of time. Li Mu even wanted to wait until Chen Shi and the others finished refining the 2 demon corpses and temporarily hand them over to Phantasmagoria. 2 7th Realm Demon Corpses, 8 demon corpses that were comparable to 7th Realm Demon Corpses after setting up a formation, and when the Lord of Heaven Illusion's strength recovered, Thousand Fox Nation would be able to bring out 4 7th Realm cultivators. Their top combat strength would not be inferior to the Fugu School, and it would not be difficult to unify the Demon Nation directly. In this way, the Great Zhou Nation would no longer have to worry about the threat of the Demon Nation, and Li Mu would also have fulfilled one of his promises to the Empress. The only thing he had to worry about was whether Phantasmagoria would betray him. Li Mu glanced at Phantasmagoria. He did not believe that Phantasmagoria would do such a thing. If such a day really came, then he would be blind to the wrong fox. He did not think too far ahead for the time being. He walked to Phantasmagoria's side and saw her sitting at the table, writing something densely. Li Mu took a look and realized that she wanted to reform the management of Thousand Fox Nation. After all, the Demon Nation was a demon nation. It did not have a complete official system like the Great Zhou Nation, and many places were very chaotic. It was good that Phantasmagoria wanted to reform, but she obviously did not understand these things. Li Mu was a scholar in the palace and had professional eyes for many years. The reform she proposed was simply a mess, and he could not bear to look at it directly. Phantasmagoria bit the tip of the pen, not knowing how to proceed. Li Mu took the pen from her hand and said, "Get up." He lifted Phantasmagoria up and sat down. Then, he crumpled the paper she had written on and threw it aside. He laid out a new piece of paper, thought for a moment, and began to write. In the end, the Demon Nation was different from the Great Zhou Court. Some things could be used, but some had to be abandoned or changed. Phantasmagoria had always been troubled by these things. She was naturally happy that someone was willing to help her. She stood beside Li Mu and felt relaxed after the burden on her shoulders was lifted. At this moment, a thought suddenly popped into her mind. It would be great if she could keep Li Mu here forever. She just so happened to need someone by her side to help her. Suddenly, Phantasmagoria seemed to understand something, and a look of realization appeared on her face. No wonder Zhou Yi treated Li Mu so well. She recalled the reports of the Meizong spies. Li Mu often stayed in Zhou Yi's chambers. As the Empress, Zhou Yi did not attend to her proper duties and was always gardening. Because she had Li Mu by her side, she did not need to deal with state affairs by herself. Because she had Li Mu by her side, when the Demon Nation underwent great changes that might threaten the Great Zhou Court, as the Empress, she did not need to do anything. Li Mu would naturally clear away all obstacles for her. No matter what happened, there would always be someone standing by her side, supporting her and helping her solve her problems. So this was Zhou Yi's true happiness. Chapter 490. Li Mu had already tested the effects of the Realm Breaker pill on Green Ox and Tiger King before. After all, it was just advancing from the 4th realm to the 5th realm. As long as one's spiritual power reached the peak of the 4th realm, breaking through was just a matter of taking a pill. However, advancing from the 5th realm to the 6th realm was not so easy. No one could refine pills of that level at the moment, and they also lacked the materials. Otherwise, if Li Mu sent Phantom Princess to the 6th realm with a single pill, who in the Thousand Fox Nation would dare to object? There were many demons under Hu Jiao and Hu Lu who were stuck at the peak of the 4th realm. It would have taken them a few years, a decade, decades, or even a lifetime to cross this step. After taking the Realm Breaker pill, more than a dozen of them successfully advanced in 3 days. Those who did not advance also had their spiritual power greatly improved. As long as they cultivated well, they would break through in these 2 years. Li Mushuan then asked Huan Ji for more medicinal herbs to refine some pills that could increase the dermic powers of the demons. He also raised the overall strength of the demons under her command. In this way, the strength of the Thousand Fox country was finally restored to its former peak. In addition, Li Mu also built a new imperial court for the Thousand Fox Nation according to the personnel structure of the Great Zhou Court. Their previous management was too chaotic. In the future, the demon division would each perform their own duties, and the power would eventually be concentrated in Phantom Princess' hands. There would not be a situation where the Empress's power was just a figurehead. The officials of the demon division would be the demons under her whose cultivation had improved. This group of people was personally promoted by her and could be considered her first batch of direct subordinates. Compared to the previous elders of the Meizong sect, they were absolutely loyal to Phantom Princess and did not have any other intentions. On a flattened mountain peak in the Thousand Fox Nation, Li Mu carefully engraved formation patterns on a huge spiritual jade. Phantom Princess stood beside him with her hands behind her back and stuck her head out to observe. She did not know what Li Mu was doing, but she did not ask. In any case, she knew that everything Li Mu did was for her. There was a mirror erected in front of Li Mu. The reflection in the mirror wasn't Li Mu. Instead, it was the Empress and Ting Axian. Ting Axian, Wan Wan, and Xiao Bai would also occasionally come over to take a look. Although Li Mu was constantly facing the monocular, which made him feel uncomfortable all over, this was the Empress's order, so he couldn't disobey. Otherwise, it would seem that he had a guilty conscience. It was not easy to inscribe runes on a spiritual jade. The slightest ripple of magic power would cause the entire spiritual jade to be destroyed. Li Mu was completely focused. The sweat on his forehead was about to drip into his eyes. Phantom Princess took out a handkerchief from her bosom and was about to wipe Li Mu's sweat when an angry voice came from the Thousand Li mirror. Stop. Bai Tingxin looked at her angrily through the monocular. Huan Ji's lips curled up. She didn't care and continued to help Li Mu wipe away his sweat. In the Thousand Miles mirror, Bai Tingxin tugged at Zhou Yi's sleeve and said, "Sister Empress, look at her." Zhou Yi's expression was indifferent. She wasn't an impulsive woman like Ting Axian. Mr. Mei had already advised her. Although Li Mu was now in the Thousand Fox Nation, everything he did was for the imperial court and for her. Even if she was angry, she couldn't show it. She couldn't lose her composure as the Empress of the Great Zhou in front of that vixen. On the mountain peak, Illusion Princess put away her handkerchief and said to Li Mu, "Do you want to consider it? Why don't you just stay here? I can give you a bigger residence. You can choose any of the women from the Demon Kingdom's 100 races. You can also take any of the spiritual jades and spiritual herbs in the treasury. I'll also help you bring your little maid and little fox here. Don't you think it's better for your little fox to live here?" Xiao Bai poked her head over and said, "I'm not going. Benefactor, don't agree to it." Li Mu shook his head and said to Phantom Princess, "That's impossible." Phantom Princess didn't say anything. She looked into the mirror and met Zhou Yi's gaze. The two empresses of the nation, separated by thousands of miles, still clashed fiercely with each other. There was a hint of provocation in Phantom Princess's eyes. Zhou Yi's expression was still indifferent. However, her hands hidden in her sleeves were already clenched. She snorted coldly in her heart. She would let her be proud for a few more days. When this matter was over, the demon nation would be Li Mu's forbidden land. she wouldn't let Li Mu go to the demon nation again. He would never see that vixen again. This was her last bit of pride. She was the empress of the great show. She had to be calm. She couldn't be angered by this wild fox. Phantom Princess looked at Zhou Yi, then suddenly looked at Li Mu and said, "The other thing I said, do you want to reconsider? Isn't being the empress of the Thousand Fox Nation better than being someone else's subject?" Zhou Yi couldn't remain calm after stealing her man in front of her. Her eyes flashed coldly as she angrily said, "Vixen, how dare you?" Through the monocular, Phantom Princess was naturally not frightened by Zhou Qiong. She asked, "Am I wrong? One is a subject, working like a cow or a horse. The other is an empress, working like a cow or a horse. Smart people know which one to choose." This fox simply wanted to see the world in chaos. Li Mu glared at her and said, "A real man can support the heavens and the earth. How can I be a woman's empress? Give up on this idea." Phantom Princess crossed her arms and said, "You said it yourself. If you become someone else's empress in the future, I'll be the first to look down on you." Zhou Yi said coldly, "What does this have to do with you?" Phantom Princess looked at her and asked, "Why are you in such a hurry? Do you want him to be your empress too?" Seeing Zhou Yi's chest heaving up and down, Bai Tingxin put away the mirror and comforted her, "Empress sister, don't be angry. We won't argue with that vixen. Vixens like to seduce people. You have to believe in him." Xiaobai stood beside her and said with grievance, "Not all vixens like to seduce people. It would have been better if she didn't mention this." When she mentioned this, Bai Tingxin glared at her and said, "You still have the face to say this? You're a disgrace to all vixens. If you knew how to seduce people, you would have a nest of little vixens. What would that wild fox outside do?" On a lonely peak in the Thousand Fox Kingdom, Li Mu finished carving the last stroke and let out a long sigh of relief. He buried several large pieces of spiritual jade in different places and connected them together with runes to form a formation. Finally, he activated it with his spiritual power. This large-scale spirit-gathering formation began to operate for the first time. Li Mu had set up many spirit-gathering formations in the past, but he had always used ordinary spiritual jade. He had never tried using this kind of top-grade spiritual jade. The volume of these spiritual jades was several hundred times that of ordinary spiritual jades. Even Li Mu didn't know what the effects of using these spiritual jades to set up a spirit-gathering array would be. However, since the base of the array was of such a high grade, the ability of this array to gather spiritual energy should be terrifying. The strength of the Thousand Fox Kingdom was still very weak compared to the Celestial Wolf tribe. Setting up a high-level spirit-gathering formation and allowing demons with meritorious service to cultivate here would not only spur them on, but also cultivate their loyalty. In addition, Li Mu had a little trick up his sleeve. Compared to humans, it was much more difficult for demons to cultivate. Most demons could only cultivate by guiding the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The denser the spiritual energy in a place, the more beneficial it would be for their cultivation. Therefore, any demon with a bit of intelligence would choose to live in a place rich in spiritual energy. A spirit-gathering formation couldn't produce spiritual energy out of thin air. It could only gather the spiritual energy in the surroundings. After this large-scale spirit-gathering formation was set up, the closer to the Thousand Fox Kingdom, the denser the spiritual energy would be. The further away from the Thousand Fox Kingdom, the thinner the spiritual energy would be. Demons without intelligence would instinctively gather here, and demons of all sizes who had already begun to cultivate would also migrate here. Wouldn't it be better to let them walk into the territory of the Thousand Fox Kingdom rather than send people out to attack and occupy mountains? Li Mu's policy for the Thousand Fox Kingdom was to develop peacefully. He wanted to let the demons of all sizes know that the Thousand Fox Kingdom was different from those violent and murderous wolf pups. Phantom Princess stood beside Li Mu and said meaningfully, "You're the real fox, the moment the spirit gathering formation was activated, many demons in the Thousand Fox Kingdom suddenly raised their heads and looked at the sky. The sky was still the same, blue and cloudless. Nothing seemed to have changed, but something seemed to have changed. While the demons were puzzled, a cry of surprise suddenly sounded: spiritual energy. The spiritual energy in the surrounding seems to have become denser. A demon sensed it and exclaimed in surprise, "It's true." After sensing it carefully, the demons immediately discovered the reason. The spiritual energy in the distance is gathering here. All the cultivators in the world, be it humans or monsters, were very sensitive to the changes in spiritual chi. Whether the spiritual chi was dense or thin, it had a great impact on their cultivation speed. If the spiritual chi in Chinhu Nation became denser, then their cultivation speed would be improved. At this moment, almost all the demons in the Thousand Fox Kingdom stopped what they were doing and carefully sensed the changes in the spiritual energy in the surroundings. They wanted to know how dense the spiritual energy here would be. It was related to their future cultivation. Gradually, they were shocked to find that the density of the spiritual energy in the surroundings seemed to have no upper limit. It kept increasing, and the closer they got to a mountain peak, the denser the spiritual energy became. They could imagine how dense the spiritual energy in the mountain peak shrouded in mist would be. How happy would it be if they could cultivate there? The demons in the Thousand Fox Kingdom were suddenly filled with happiness. Far away from the Thousand Fox Kingdom, a transformed demon hid in a cave abode, absorbing the spiritual energy in the world with difficulty. For mountain demons and wild monsters like them, cultivation was very difficult. In the Yao Kingdom, the famous mountains and rivers with the densest spiritual energy were all occupied by powerful demon clans, such as the Celestial Wolf Clan, the Celestial Fox Clan, and the Nine Heavens Serpent Clan. Other demon clans were not allowed to touch them. The remaining places with less dense spiritual energy also fell into the hands of the Leopard Clan, the Tiger Clan, the Eagle Clan, and other powerful clans. Some of the smaller demon clans and the lone demon experts could only occupy the hills where the spiritual chi was thin. The smaller demons who were weak and did not belong to any clan could only find a place to absorb the spiritual chi in the air. The monkey demon was trying to absorb spiritual energy to cultivate as usual. Suddenly, he opened his eyes with a shocked expression. Just now, he couldn't absorb the spiritual energy in the world. Although the spiritual energy here was thin, it wasn't completely absent. He tried again and found that the wisp of spiritual energy had been attracted to him, but it was sucked back by something. He tried several times, but it was the same. Spiritual energy was related to their cultivation. The monkey demon carefully walked out of the cave abode and went in the direction where the spiritual energy disappeared. At the same time, with the Thousand Fox Kingdom as the center, countless demons within a radius of hundreds of miles were slowly approaching the Thousand Fox Kingdom. Chapter 491. After setting up the large-scale spirit gathering formation in Thousand Fox Nation, Li Mu did not keep it on all the time. The spirit gathering formation was too powerful. If it was kept on 24 hours a day, the spirit chi within a radius of hundreds of kilometers would be sucked to the mountain peak. When the spirit chi reached a certain density, it might eventually turn into spirit liquid. Outside the mountain peak, there was no spirit chi to absorb. Not only that, but under normal circumstances, spirit chi would spread from high to low density. The spirit gathering formation in Thousand Fox Nation could prevent the spirit chi from dissipating. When the spirit chi from afar was drawn over, the spirit chi would become thinner. The spirit chi from further away would continue to replenish the spirit chi and be sucked away by the spirit gathering formation. With this cycle, the monsters within a radius of 1,000 kilometers did not need to cultivate at all. As long as it was kept on for 2 hours a day, the spirit gathering formation in Thousand Fox Nation and its surrounding area could be ensured. It could attract monsters to gather there but would not force them into a dead end. At this point, he had done everything he could for Phantom Princess. The domestic policies had been formulated, and she only needed to implement them step by step. Li Mu had already improved the strength of all her subordinates that could be improved. The path of cultivation depended on accumulation. He could help those who were already on the verge of a breakthrough at the critical moment, but he could not create a bunch of powerhouses for her out of thin air. After this batch of breakthroughs, Phantom Princess had used up a lot of spirit herbs in her treasury. There were no monsters with suitable cultivation levels under her command, so she would enter a long period of stagnation. However, Thousand Fox Nation was completely on the right track. As long as they patiently developed, it was only a matter of time before they surpassed Tianlang Nation. At most, they would have to wait for another 2 months. When Qin Shi finished his work, Li Mu could leave the Yao Nation and return to the divine capital to reunite with the Empress. On this day, the entire Thousand Fox Nation was immersed in the joy of the increase in spirit qi. Even the elders who were in seclusion in their cave abodes felt the change in spirit qi. They all came out of their cave abodes and looked at a mountain peak not far away with burning eyes. How much effort could they save by cultivating in a place with such rich spirit qi? Everyone flew toward the mountain peak without hesitation. However, there seemed to be a formation around the mountain peak that prohibited flying. They could not get too close and could only land on the mountainside. They were about to climb up the mountainside when a figure flew over and blocked their way. A fifth realm fox demon asked, "Hujiu, what are you doing?" Hujiu glanced at him and said indifferently, "This is an important place in the Qinhu kingdom. Unrelated people are not allowed to enter." He was an elder of the fifth realm, an important figure in Thousand Fox country. Yet, he was being called a nobody. The fox demon was furious. "Hujiu, are you crazy? Don't you recognize me?" Hujiu said indifferently, "I am the commander of the Queen's First Guards. Only the Queen's First Guards can enter this mountain. All the miscellaneous demons can go back to where they came from." The elder raised his head and looked at the cultivation treasure land close at hand. His throat moved as he said, "All right, I'll join the Queen's Guards now." Hujiu sneered and asked, "What do you think the Queen's Guards are?" "You can be or not be. The Queen's Guards are full. With your cultivation, you don't meet the criteria to make an exception. Go back." The elders were stunned. What did she mean by their cultivation level? The Heavenly Lord and First Elder Huan Yun were both in seclusion to heal their wounds, and even the Queen was only in the fifth realm. They were the mainstays of the Thousand Fox Nation and had great strength. How could they be looked down upon by Hujiu? Did Hujiu go crazy while they were in seclusion? The fifth realm elder's face darkened. He asked coldly, "Hujiu, does the Queen know you're so arrogant?" Hujiu glanced at them and said, "I'll say it again. This is an important place in Thousand Fox country. Unrelated people are not allowed to enter. If you don't leave, I won't be polite anymore." The elders were not angry. The fifth realm fox demon mocked, "Let's see how you're going to be rude." Hujiu flicked her finger. A beam of light shot into the sky and exploded. In the next moment, more than a dozen figures rose into the air from all over the Thousand Fox Nation and shot over, surrounding the elders. The elders were shocked when they sensed the auras of more than 10 fifth realms. When did Thousand Fox country have so many strong cultivators? What shocked them even more was that they were familiar with these new strong cultivators, Who 18, Who 27, Who 36, the elders were in disbelief. Before they went into seclusion, these small demons were only at the fourth realm. How did they all become fifth realm strong cultivators like them in just a few days? What happened in the past few days when they were in seclusion? Hujiu sneered as she watched the elders retreat in fear. Her lips curled up. They used to ignore her, but now she was out of their league. After the elders left, they immediately asked people they knew about what happened during their seclusion. When they heard that more than 10 demons at the peak of the 4th realm were rewarded with pills by the queen and advanced to the 5th realm, and nearly 100 of the queen's guards improved their cultivation, they all regretted it. They only wanted to unite and demonstrate to the queen to fight for more power. As the 5th realm's strong cultivators of Thousand Fox Country, their status was irreplaceable. If everyone united, it would be enough to make the queen give in. They didn't expect the queen to be so decisive and cultivate some people to replace them. They didn't expect the queen to be so bold and capable. They were no longer indispensable in Thousand Fox Country. Compared to the direct descendants cultivated by the queen, they would soon lose everything they once had if they couldn't prove their value. Although they didn't want to admit it, the truth couldn't be changed. Their time had passed. Phantom Princess sent news that the elders of Meizong's sect had completely surrendered and were willing to listen to her orders. They had long been branded with the symbol of Thousand Fox Country. This was the only place they could go. They only wanted to fight for more power through that method. Now that they understood the situation, they were completely obedient. Li Mu was video chatting with the queen through the monocular. She couldn't make up her mind about some court matters and needed to discuss with Li Mu. After Zhou Yi dealt with a few memorials, she asked Li Mu, "When will you come back?" Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "A month at most. Thousand Fox Country doesn't have the strength to protect itself now. Once I leave, Tianlang Country will definitely make a comeback. At that time, all our previous efforts will be in vain. Your Majesty, please bear with it for a while." Sometimes, Li Mu would sigh in his heart. Was he really living a hard life? Zhou Yi, Phantom Princess, the human race, the Yao Nation, and 2 empresses had to be served by him. If he wasn't careful, the peace between the human race and the Yao Nation would be broken. He had to bear so much pressure that he shouldn't have to bear. After he ended the video call with the queen, Phantom Princess walked in again and said, "I've thought about it. I plan to make you the state preceptor." Li Mu waved his hand and said, "I don't want to be a state preceptor." The queen was already unhappy that he helped Phantom Princess do these things. If he became her state preceptor, although he wouldn't be the queen would still be jealous. She and Phantom Princess didn't like each other. Phantom Princess looked at Li Mu and said, "Haven't you always wanted the human race and the Yao Nation to coexist peacefully? This is an important opportunity. Because of you, Thousand Fox Country exists. You are the best bridge between the 2 races. Think about it, if you become the state preceptor of Thousand Fox Country, you will be loved and respected by the Yao Nation. Won't the Yao Nation's impression of the human race change?" Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess. Although he didn't rule out the possibility that she had other motives, what she said did make some sense. It was far from easy to resolve the conflict between the human race and the Yao Nation. If he could build a bridge between the 2 races, it would definitely be a good start. Li Mu, as the state preceptor of the Yao Nation and an important minister of the Great Zhou, could serve as the bridge between the imperial court and Thousand Fox Country to strengthen the relationship between the 2 sides. The Yao Nation was rich in elixirs that the imperial court was in short supply. The Yao Nation's elixirs, magic treasures, fulu, and other things were rare to the Yao Nation. The 2 sides could strengthen cooperation and mutual benefit. Phantom Princess looked at Li Mu and asked, "What do you think? Isn't my idea good?" It was rare for her to have a good idea. After Li Mu understood the pros and cons, he didn't refuse. However, he didn't expect Phantom Princess to be so serious about this matter. It was beyond his imagination. Not only did she gather all the Yao officials of Thousand Fox Country to hold a grand ceremony for the state preceptor, but she also had her personal guards post notices all over the streets and alleys of Thousand Fox City. Overnight, all the Yao Nation citizens knew that they had a human state preceptor. Humans and Yao Nation couldn't coexist. They were originally resistant to this matter. However, when they saw the humans' contributions to Thousand Fox Country from the notices, this trace of resistance quickly disappeared without a trace. He was the one who helped the Queen defeat Bai Xian and regain control of Thousand Fox Country. He was also the one who used a magic treasure to stop the Blue Wolf King and save Thousand Fox Country from disaster. He was the one who set up the spirit gathering formation in the city. He allowed all the Yao Nation's citizens to bathe in rich spirit qi and greatly increased their cultivation speed. In addition, he also refined precious elixirs and helped Thousand Fox Country create a large number of powerhouses. Whether it was to the Queen or the citizens of the city, he was a great benefactor. Although the Yao Nation was born in the wilderness, they also knew how to repay kindness, especially in Thousand Fox Country, which was mostly populated by foxes. After all, there weren't many treacherous people like Bai Xian. He had done so much for the foxes, so what if he was a human? It wouldn't be too much for the Queen to erect a statue of such a person. Li Mu thought that Illusion Princess had done the best she could by announcing that he was the state preceptor of Thousand Fox Country to the entire country. He didn't expect that he had underestimated her. Illusion Princess was gathering the craftsmen of Thousand Fox Country to erect a statue of him. She had already chosen the location. There was one at the city gate of Thousand Fox Country and another at the square in front of the palace. Outsiders would see it as soon as they stepped into Thousand Fox Country, and they would also see it as soon as they walked through the palace gates. Li Mu found Illusion Princess and comforted her. "Forget about the statue, it's enough." Illusion Princess's tone was firm. "You are no longer Zhou Yi's subject, nor are you my personal guard. You are the savior of Thousand Fox Country, the state preceptor of Thousand Fox Country, and the ambassador to promote the peaceful coexistence of humans in Yao. When the Yao Nation sees your statue, they will remember what you have done and remember that humans once saved us. Naturally, they will hate you less. I am doing this for the sake of peace between the two races." Li Mu was still convinced by Illusion Princess. He simply ignored the matter and focused on cultivating. Although he could now fight against a 7th realm cultivator, he was only relying on those Yao corpses. Soon, Li Mu would leave all of those Yao corpses to Illusion Princess. Firstly, he didn't like to carry those lifeless corpses everywhere. Secondly, it would cause him to rely too much on external objects. Of course, the most important reason was that Illusion Princess needed them more than he did in the face of the threat of the Celestial Wolf Clan and the Demon Path. Li Mu's cultivation had been increasing very slowly ever since he reached the 5th realm. In addition, he had been busy with various matters and didn't have much time to cultivate. Li Qing and Lu Hanyan had probably surpassed him in terms of cultivation. However, if he wanted to increase his cultivation quickly after reaching this realm, unless he was like Lu Hanyan and Li Qing and went into seclusion for a long time and had the Fulu school continuously providing him with resources, he could only cultivate one step at a time. In the Thousand Fox Nation, the statue of the Grand Tutor stood at the city gate. Many of the Yao citizens who passed by would pay their respects when they saw it. They already knew that the Thousand Fox Nation was still under the Grand Tutor's protection. If it weren't for the Grand Tutor, the Celestial Wolf Clan would have occupied this place long ago. Therefore, they were especially respectful to the Grand Tutor's statue. A few figures walked in from the city gate. Leading them were 2 5th Realm Fox Demon Commanders, the Queen's personal guards. Behind the 2 of them were 3 other people, 2 men and 1 woman. They were all humans, and they followed behind the 2 Yao corpses with nervous expressions. The 3 of them were disciples of a small sect in the Zhejiang County of the Great Zhou. Due to an accident in the sect's elders' cultivation, they needed a few spiritual herbs to refine pills. Therefore, they ventured into the Yao Nation to look for the spiritual herbs. Unexpectedly, before they could find the spiritual herbs, they encountered a few powerful wolf demons and almost died in the wolves' mouths. Fortunately, 2 Yao corpses appeared later and saved them, bringing them here. Although their lives were saved by the two Yao corpses, the Yao nation and the human clan had always been at odds. Who knew if they had just escaped the wolf's mouth and entered the fox's den? Along the way, the three of them were constantly worried, not knowing what they would face next. After entering the city gate, they passed by a statue that stood at the city gate. The two fox demons stopped and bowed to the statue a few times. The Grand Tutor was like a legend in the Thousand Fox Nation. The reason why their cultivation could increase was because of the pills that the Grand Tutor had given them. They respected the Grand Tutor more than anyone else. When the three human cultivators saw the statue, a trace of doubt appeared in their eyes. "Senior brothers, don't you think that the statue looks a little familiar?" "I think so too, but I can't remember where I've seen it." "It looks like a human, but why would a human statue be here?" The three of them cautiously transmitted their voices and followed the two demon corpses to a magnificent palace complex in front of them. Along the way, they already knew that this was the Thousand Fox Nation, one of the four major demon clans of the Yao Nation. The statue erected at the city gate was of the Thousand Fox Nation's Grand Tutor, who seemed to be very respected by the demon corpses here. In the palace, Li Mu had just finished his closed-door cultivation. This closed-door cultivation consumed a lot of spiritual jades, but the growth of his dermic powers was still very limited. Li Mu lamented the difficulty of cultivation in his heart. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something. He raised his eyebrows and performed the guiding technique. In the Thousand Fox City, something invisible seemed to be sucked out of the two statues and entered Li Mu's body. At this moment, his dermic powers increased significantly, even far exceeding those of the days when he was in closed-door cultivation. Li Mu was stunned for a moment, but he soon understood the reason. This was the psychokinesis of the demon corpses of the Thousand Fox Nation. It was essentially the same as the psychokinesis he obtained from the people of the Great Zhou. In fact, because the strength of the demon corpses in the city was mostly above the transformation realm, there was no lack of fourth and fifth realms. Although the quantity of psychokinesis could not be compared to the people of the divine capital, the quality was too high, and the effect was not inferior to the people's psychokinesis. Phantom Princess sensed the change in Li Mu's aura and flew out of the palace. She said, "Now you know how good I am to you, right?" Li Mu finally understood her intention. Erecting two statues of him in the Thousand Fox Nation was equivalent to erecting temples in the Great Zhou. As long as the people worshipped, their psychokinesis would be attached to the stone statues, and through some mysterious method, it would be directly gathered in the ancestral temple in the divine capital. Although Li Mu could not absorb the psychokinesis remotely, as long as he came here once in a while, he could absorb the psychokinesis stored in the statues. This was equivalent to having two statues to cultivate for him, and Li Mu could do his own things. The royal families of the various countries on the continent mostly cultivated in this way. Phantom Princess, this little fox, knew how to repay kindness. She had not done so much for him in vain. A few figures walked over from afar. Two demon fox approached and said respectfully, "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Greetings, State Preceptor." Phantom Princess glanced at the three people behind her and asked, "Who are they?" One of the demon fox commanders said, "Your Majesty, when we were patrolling outside, we found two wolf clan spies had a conflict with these three humans. We worked together to defeat the two wolf clan spies. We did not know why these three people appeared in the territory of the Thousand Fox Nation, so we brought them back." At this moment, the female cultivator among the three looked at Li Mu. She seemed to have thought of something and blurted out, You're Li Mu, Lord Li." Li Mu looked at her and asked, "You know me?" The female cultivator said happily, "I've seen Lord Li once at the Zhejiang County office." Li Mu recalled that when he dealt with the Zhejiang County king, he stayed there for a few days. This woman's cultivation was at the fourth realm. She seemed to be one of the cultivators recruited by the Zhejiang County office. Li Mu asked casually, "What are you doing here?" The female cultivator said respectfully, something went wrong with the cultivation of the elders of the sect and they need a few spiritual herbs. Those spiritual herbs can only be found in the demon nation, so we took the risk to come here to look for them. They were all humans, so he would help them if he could. Limu continued to ask, "What spiritual herbs do you need?" The female cultivator hurriedly said, 7-star grass, purple profound ginseng, and calming flower. Limu asked directly, "Your elders' primordial spirits are injured and need to refine spirit congealing pills, right?" The female cultivator nodded repeatedly. "Yes." Limu stretched out his hand, and a bottle of pills appeared in his palm. He threw it to the female cultivator and said, "This bottle is for repairing primordial spirits. It's better than spirit congealing pills. Take it." "Thank you, Lord Li." They thought that this trip would not bode well, but they did not expect to meet their own kind in the demon nation and obtain pills to treat their elders. It was simply a joy. One had to know that even if they found the spiritual herbs, the alchemist might not be able to refine them successfully. The three of them were pleasantly surprised and bowed repeatedly to express their gratitude. Limu waved his hand and said, "It's nothing. The demon nation hasn't been peaceful recently. Don't come here if you have nothing to do. I'll get someone to send you back." When the three of them were escorted out of the 1,000 Fox Nation by 2 fox race powerhouses, the female cultivator took one last look at the statue in the city and asked a fox demon, "Senior, why do you call Lordly the state preceptor?" At the mention of the state preceptor, the fox demon revealed a look of admiration and said, "It's a long story, Zhejiang County." Recently, a legend began to spread in Zhejiang County. The state preceptor of the 1,000 Fox Nation, one of the 4 great demon nations in the demon nation, was actually a human and was extremely respected in the 1,000 Fox Nation. Speaking of the state preceptor, he was a legend. As everyone knew, a few months ago, the situation in the demon nation changed drastically. With the support of the demon Dao, the celestial wolf tribe and the 1,000 Fox Nation wantonly annexed the various races of the demon nation. Once they unified the demon nation, the border counties of the Great Zhou were in danger. For this reason, the imperial court even sent a 7th realm powerhouse to negotiate with the demon nation, but it ended in failure. Just as the imperial court was at their wits' end and the people of Zhejiang County and several other border counties were in a state of panic, a person silently entered the demon nation. He went undercover in the 1,000 Fox Nation and endured humiliation. After going through many hardships, he successfully gained the trust of the ruler of the 1,000 Fox Nation. At the critical moment, he instigated a portion of the demon race to rebel, launched a coup, and appointed a new ruler. He disrupted the demon Dao's plan and persuaded the new queen of the 1,000 Fox Nation to get along with the humans of the Great Zhou. The queen of the 1,000 Fox Nation appointed him as the state preceptor. With his own strength, he changed the situation in the demon nation and delayed the celestial wolf tribe's progress in unifying the demon nation. He resolved the crisis of the Great Zhou border counties and made a great contribution to promoting harmony between the two races. This person was none other than Lord Limu. Perhaps the commoners of the 36 counties had not heard of this name, but the cultivators and officials of the various counties in the Great Zhou were no strangers to him. In the past 2 years, he had contributed greatly to abolishing the old system and improving the people's lives. No one could replace his contribution in promoting the peaceful coexistence between the humans and demon race and stabilizing the place. Now, when the imperial court was at their wits' end in the face of the demon nation's foreign invasion, he stood up again. He had always been on the front lines in resolving internal problems and eliminating external threats. When the news reached the divine capital, the citizens of the divine capital, who had not heard from Lord Li for a long time, rushed to the streets of the divine capital to celebrate. I was wondering why I hadn't seen Lord Li for so long, so Lord Li went to pacify the demon nation. I heard that Lord Li was appointed as the state preceptor in the demon nation. As expected, no matter where he goes, he's always so dazzling. I also heard that Lord Li has a close relationship with the Demon Nation's queen and is about to become the Demon Nation's queen. Lord Li is an eternal god. Changel Palace. The various discussions of the citizens of the divine capital reached Zhou Yi's ears through the mystic light technique. With a cold expression, she waved her hand to disperse the mystic light technique and said, Mei Wei, the morning court will be presided over by you and Ali. Pass down the decree to all departments that I will be in seclusion. This time, I will be in seclusion for a long time and will not see anyone. Chapter 492. Thousand Fox Nation. Hujiu's subordinates on patrol were reporting the changes around Thousand Fox Nation to Huan Ji. In the past month, due to the existence of the superlarge spirit gathering formation, the spirit chi within 100 miles of Thousand Fox Nation was exceptionally rich. It was even comparable to the blessed lands occupied by some mid-level demon clans. For most of the demons in the demon nation, spirit chi was their only way to cultivate. This also caused a large number of demons to migrate to the vicinity of Thousand Fox Nation. However, they did not dare to get too close. Most of them stopped 100 miles away from Thousand Fox Nation. Within 100 miles, it was definitely Thousand Fox Nation's territory. Thousand Fox Nation did not pay attention to these demons for the time being. They tacitly allowed them to build cave abodes nearby. When the time was right, it was only natural that they would be listed as demons of Thousand Fox Nation. The spies lurking around Tian Lang Nation also sent back news that the Tian Lang Nation did not make any unusual movements recently. They even stopped annexing other demon clans. This was not something to be happy about. For Tian Lang Nation, the biggest threat was obviously here. They did not disperse their forces. It was very likely that they were thinking of ways to deal with Thousand Fox Nation. Even though the Demon Nation had temporarily settled down, some small and mid-level demon clans were not at ease. Instead, they were even more worried. In the past, when Tian Lang Nation and Thousand Fox Nation expanded without restraint, the worst-case scenario was that the entire demon clan would submit and be ordered around in the future. However, in recent days, many demon clans in the demon nation had disappeared as if their existence had been erased out of thin air. Only empty cave abodes were left behind, and the owners of the cave abodes were nowhere to be found. At first, this only happened 1 or 2 times and did not attract much attention. The demon nation followed the law of the jungle. Countless demon clans were annexed. This was not a rare occurrence. However, this happened one after another. In half a month, several small and mid-level demon clans such as the Pig Demon Clan, the Deer Demon Clan, and the Monkey Demon Clan mysteriously disappeared without leaving behind any clues or traces. Among these demon clans, there was no lack of Fifth Realm powerhouses. However, they could not escape the calamity. This caused some small and mid-level demon clans to panic. Those demon clans with 6th Realm demon kings could still barely protect themselves. With so many small and mid-level demon clans disappearing, who knew when disaster would befall them? This caused many small and medium-sized demon clans to band together. Some even took the initiative to seek refuge with the Celestial Wolf Clan, the Black Snake Clan, the Bear Clan, and other major demon clans of the Demon Kingdom. Nothing like this happened near Thousand Fox Nation. Even so, several clan leaders of small demon clans came in person to plead to join Thousand Fox Nation and serve the Queen. They only hoped that they could move to Thousand Fox Nation and protect their clan. The Thousand Fox Nation had undergone several major changes, and its strength had always been the weakest of the 4 major demon clans. Although the addition of these small and medium-sized demon clans would not immediately increase their combat power, fresh blood was very important to any force. After discussing with Li Mu, Huan Ji agreed to their request. For a time, within a radius of several hundred miles around the Thousand Fox Kingdom, small and medium-sized demon clans, or mountain spirits and wild monsters who cultivated alone, came to seek refuge. If it were in the past, they would not have dared to take sides easily. But now, in order to seek protection, they had no other choice. In the Demon Kingdom, on a mountain peak with abundant spirit chi. In the Demon Kingdom, all places with abundant spirit chi were, without exception, occupied by powerful demon clans. The cloud-piercing peak had always been the territory of the Leopard clan. Although the Leopard clan was not a top-level demon clan, they had 5 fifth realm cultivators in their clan. They were also distant relatives of the Leopard King of the Leopard clan. Usually, even the major demon clans of the Demon Kingdom did not dare to provoke them. The Leopard clan had occupied the cloud-piercing peak for decades. They had been cultivating here peacefully until today. The 5 fifth realm leopard demons each had a large hole in their abdomens. Only their shells were left. Their demon souls had long disappeared. The mountain peak was littered with the bodies of the leopard demons. The Leopard clan, which was considered one of the major demon clans in the Demon Kingdom, had no survivors. There were also no traces of battle on the mountain peak. The Leopard clan's extermination had obviously happened in a very short period of time. A figure covered in gray fog floated in the void. The gray fog surged, and the surrounding leopard demon corpses all disappeared. Other than the missing Leopard clan, everything on the cloud-piercing peak returned to normal. The gray fog instantly disappeared. Thousand Fox Country. Huan Ji was also very shocked when she heard the news of the Leopard clan's extermination. Although the Leopard clan's strength was far from the Fox clan's, they were still one of the powerful clans in the Demon Kingdom. It was too unbelievable that they had been exterminated so silently. Even an ordinary 6th realm cultivator would not be able to exterminate the Leopard clan so easily. Huan Ji made a prompt decision and said, "Tell all the demon clans around Thousand Fox Country to enter the range of the bell. Summon all your subordinates back and temporarily put down the missions at hand." At the same time, the 9 Heavens Xian Snake clan, Tian Shan Bear clan, and Tian Lang clan raised their guard in response to the mysterious disappearance of the major demon clans. They also opened up their territories and allowed the major demon clans to join them. They provided protection and took the opportunity to strengthen themselves. While the Demon Kingdom was in a state of panic, a gray fog drifted between the mountains of the Demon Kingdom. Most of the demon clans that had formed a sizable force had already attached themselves to the 4 major demon kingdoms. For a moment, he could not find a suitable target. At a certain moment, the gray fog flew past a hidden valley and rolled back to hover above the valley. A lush valley was formed between a few mountain peaks. The valley was filled with lush vegetation, and no matter how one looked at it, it was just an ordinary valley. In the gray fog, 2 red lights flashed past, and an unexpected voice was heard. "What a brilliant concealment array! I almost misjudged it." The gray fog slowly descended. When it reached a certain height, the scenery in front of it suddenly changed. It was no longer a barren valley below, but a small city. There were fields outside the city, and there were all kinds of buildings in the city. The streets of the city were crowded with people, and their bodies emitted a faint demon aura. Without exception, all of them were demons that had transformed and above. There were even a few that had reached the 5th realm. This city gave off a very strange feeling. It was clearly a city of the Demon Kingdom, but it felt like a human city. The streets were spotless, and the entire city was orderly and full of order. Although the 4 major demon kingdoms also imitated human cities, they were much more chaotic than this small city. The figure in the gray fog was only surprised for a moment. He raised his palm and gently pressed down. A huge palm appeared in the sky above the small city. The palm covered the entire small city. Once it pressed down, the city would definitely be destroyed, and the demons inside would not be able to escape death. Boom! After a deafening sound, a mountain peak was crushed by the huge palm. The gray fog dissipated, revealing a figure within. A dim light flickered in the middle-aged man's eyes as he looked at the nearby valley. The city still existed. Just a moment ago, he was moved thousands of feet away, and even the Dharma spell he used was offset. A look of surprise appeared on his face. Just as he was about to fly towards the city again, a voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Death. As the voice sounded, the middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. At this moment, he felt that his body was showing signs of decay. At this moment, a second voice sounded in his ears. Destruction of the soul. When he realized that his primordial spirit was also beginning to disperse, the middle-aged man's heart was filled with extreme fear. He turned into a silver light and fled into the distance. The collapsed mountain peak stirred up a cloud of dust. When the dust dissipated, the small city in the mountain in the distance had already disappeared, and it was once again a barren valley. 1,000 miles away, the Green Wolf King looked behind him with lingering fear. This was the most cowardly and frustrating battle he had ever experienced in his life. He did not even see his opponent's face, and he had lost at least 3 years of cultivation for no reason. Could it be that he had encountered some old monster of the demon kingdom that had hidden away from the world? Although his cultivation was already rare in the world, the Green Wolf King knew very well that he was far from being invincible in the demon kingdom. In the demon kingdom, the truly terrifying ones were not that snake, that black bear, or that old fox. Those old monsters who were nearing the end of their lifespans and were in seclusion somewhere in search of a breakthrough were the most terrifying ones. Could it be that he was unlucky enough to run into one of those existences today? The Green Wolf King silently cursed his bad luck. He silently committed that place to memory. Just as he was about to return to the Tianlang Kingdom, a streak of light suddenly streaked past in the distance. As if sensing the Green Wolf King's presence, the streak of light turned back and stopped a few hundred feet away from the Green Wolf King. An extremely beautiful woman looked at him and asked, "May I ask, how do I get to the Thousand Fox Kingdom?" The Green Wolf King looked at this female cultivator who was only at the 5th level of cultivation and asked, "What are you doing in the Thousand Fox Kingdom?" The woman said, "I'm looking for someone." The Green Wolf King did not say much to this female cultivator. He was about to capture her and return to the Tianlang Kingdom. He took a step forward and was already in front of this female cultivator. He reached out to grab her tender neck. Then, one of his arms flew out. The Green Wolf King clutched his severed arm and stared at this female cultivator in shock. He could only watch as her aura changed from the 5th level to the 7th level in an instant. Chapter 493. Celestial Wolf Kingdom. At the highest peak, within a cave dwelling, there was a tall and sturdy man with a faint, king character on his forehead sitting cross-legged in a corner. Around him, countless monster souls twined around him. These demon souls were of different races. There were deer souls, monkey souls, tiger souls, and so on. All of the demon souls were in pain. They wanted to break free, but it was futile. Every time the man breathed, a demon's soul would be sucked into his body. Every time he refined a demon soul, his aura would vaguely become stronger. At a certain moment, the space in the quiet cave rippled and a figure fell out. The Blue Wolf King's hair was disheveled. He had lost an arm and was covered in blood. His aura was much weaker as well. The shock still lingered on his face. The man suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the Blue Wolf King in shock. "How did you get injured like this? Did you run into those 2 old guys?" The Blue Wolf King's face was filled with bad luck. He told him what had happened today. As a level 7 ancestor, there weren't many people in the Yao Kingdom who were qualified to be his opponent. He had run into 2 today. He didn't know what the cultivation of the strong cultivator in the city was like. His abilities were too strange. He could actually use the power of the world to directly injure his body and soul, making him lose 2 years of cultivation for nothing. The female human cultivator he ran into later was even more terrifying. He almost died at her hands. He only barely managed to escape by using blood escape. Only now did he have time to grow a new arm. Although he could regrow an arm, it couldn't be compared to the original one. He didn't know how long it would take for him to cultivate it back. After a moment of thought, the man said, "The first person to injure you should be a peak level 6 legalism cultivator." "Impossible," the Blue Wolf King said firmly. "How can he injure me without level 7 cultivation?" The elder glanced at him and said, "Even during the esoteric debate, legalism cultivators were among the top. If it really was a level 7 legalism cultivator, you wouldn't be able to see me today. He should be the one who founded that small Yao kingdom." Legend has it that there's an important step for legalism to reach level 7, which is to establish a kingdom with laws. It seems that the legend is true. He couldn't compare to the sage sex elder in terms of knowledge. The Green Wolf King didn't suspect anything. "When we recover, we'll go and meet that so-called legalism expert." A trace of fear appeared in the elder's eyes as he said, "It's best not to provoke this person. The school of legalism is not to be trifled with. Right now, the most important thing is Chinhu country. It's best not to complicate things." Fear appeared on the Green Wolf King's face again at the mention of the Thousand Fox Nation. Who was that female cultivator? Why did she go to the Thousand Fox Nation? I have a feeling that if she wasn't in a hurry to go there and wasn't serious, I would have died at her hands. The elder of the sage sect pondered and said, "As far as I know, there are only 2 known female cultivators in Zhuzhou who have such strength. One is the Empress of the Great Zhou, and the other is the leader of the Danding sect. The Empress of the Great Zhou won't leave Luoyang. The leader of the Danding sect may have come here to look for elixirs. Do you have a portrait of her?" The Green Wolf King shook his head. "She's much stronger than me. I can't use the mystic light technique to create a portrait of her. Her appearance may not be her original appearance either." He looked confused and asked, "Why would such a strong cultivator go to Chinhu country?" The elder of the sage sect knew what he was worried about. "Don't worry. No matter who she is, she won't stay in Chinhu country for long. She won't affect our plan." "I'm worried about the 8 corpses," the Blue Wolf King said. "What's so scary about those 8 corpses? Even if all 8 of them work together, they can only stop one of us temporarily. Myriad illusions won't recover his strength that quickly. As long as we break that bell, either of us will be able to suppress Thousand Fox Nation." The elder of the sage sect said in a deep voice, "You're too naive. Do you know what 8 level 6 corpses mean?" "What do they mean?" the Green Wolf King asked. The elder of the sage sect Taoist priest said, "Even the Fulu school of the 6 Taoist sects only has 7 level 6 first seats. After Myriad Illusion died, the corpse sect didn't even have a level 6 cultivator. The fact that they can produce 8 level 6 corpses means that there's a very powerful organization behind Chinhu country. If they can produce 8 level 6 cultivators, could there be a level 7 cultivator behind them? What's more, when did such a powerful force appear on the continent that we've never heard of before? And it's obvious that they're our enemy, not our friend." The Green Wolf King's expression turned serious as he pondered the elder of the sage sect's words. This was still a mystery for the time being. He released dozens of demon souls and said, "Let's heal ourselves first. We'll know if there's such a force behind Chinhu country when the time comes." Chinhu country. The mysterious disappearance of many demons made the demons panic. However, a few powerful demons still benefited from it. Chinhu country gained dozens of subordinate demon tribes, and the number of demons under their rule increased by nearly 30%. Li Mu's preliminary judgment was that this series of events should be the work of a level 7 cultivator. There was no other reason. If their cultivation was only at the level 6, they wouldn't be able to handle so many things without leaving any clues behind. When he thought of the fact that the demon sect elder's primordial spirit was severely injured and could absorb a large number of demon souls to speed up his recovery, the mastermind behind this series of events was on the verge of being revealed. If a level 7 cultivator wanted to take souls, there was no way to stop them. The only thing they could do was to protect more small and medium-sized demon tribes as much as possible. In the past 2 days, Limu found something rather strange. The Empress hadn't checked on him for 2 days in a row. It didn't seem very likely that she was angry because he had become the state preceptor of Qinhu country. Limu had asked her in advance, and she had expressed her understanding. Limu was about to take the initiative to ask when Hu Jiu suddenly walked in and said that someone from the Great Zhou court had come. Limu walked out in confusion. The Empress didn't tell him that the court had sent someone to Qinhu country. When he walked outside and saw Mr. Mei standing beside his statue in front of the palace, he was stunned for a moment. Then he asked in surprise, "Sister Mei, why are you here?" It was undoubtedly a big surprise to be able to see relatives and old friends in the divine capital in the distant demon nation. Mr. Mei glanced at him and said, "The court wants to establish an alliance with Qinhu country and never attack each other. Her Majesty sent me to discuss with Qinhu country." Limu took the initiative to say, "Don't worry. Leave it to me." Mr. Mei looked at the tall statue and said, "It seems that Fox treats you well. She even built a statue for you." Hu Jiu heard the Great Zhou female official call the Empress and said unhappily, "I don't know what status you have in Great Zhou, but this is Qinhu country. You'd better show some respect to Her Majesty." Mr. Mei glanced at Hu Jiu indifferently. Thump. Hu Jiu's condensed body felt weak in the legs and fell to the ground. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He didn't know why, but the Great Zhou female official's gaze was so terrifying that he felt fear from the bottom of his heart. Even his legs felt weak. Hu Jiu was ashamed and angry, but she didn't dare to reprimand the Great Zhou female official anymore. She got up from the ground and said to Limu awkwardly, "I have something else to do. You take care of the people of Great Zhou yourself." Limu took Mr. Mei to the palace where he was temporarily living. Mr. Mei looked around and asked, "Are you living in that fox's harem?" Limu said, "Don't get me wrong. I picked a place randomly." 4 graceful figures walked out and bowed to Limu. They said obediently, "Sir, you're back." Mr. Mei looked at the quadruplet rabbit demon sisters, then looked at Limu and asked, "You picked them randomly too?" Limu glanced at her and said, "Why are you like Her Majesty? Why do you care so much? Come in first." Limu dared to admit that he was a lecher in front of the Empress, so of course, he wasn't afraid of Mr. Mei. These 4 rabbit demons were actually maids that he had prepared for Lu Hanyan and Li Qing, but he didn't even bother to explain to Mr. Mei. He just let her think whatever she wanted. Mr. Mei glanced at the 4 rabbit demons and didn't ask any more questions. He sat on the main seat that should have been Limu's and said, "I heard that you're going to be the Empress of the Thousand Fox country." Limu raised his head and said in surprise, "Who did you hear that from? Although she does have this intention, am I that kind of person? How can a man be someone's Empress?" Mr. Mei said lightly, "That's what people outside say." Limu twitched the corner of his mouth and said, "Can you believe those words? Some people even said that I'm going to be the Empress of the Great Zhou. Why don't you ask Her Majesty if she has this intention?" Chapter 494. Mr. Mei glanced at him and asked, "If Her Majesty wants to, do you dare?" Limu said decisively, "No." Putting aside her identity as the Empress, even if she was a 7th realm cultivator, for a lecher, there was nothing he wouldn't dare to do. A 7th realm cultivator was still a woman. Sooner or later, he would cultivate to the 7th realm and wouldn't be unworthy of her. But being an Empress was out of the question. Lecherous as he was, he still had to have a bottom line. It was unprecedented for a man to be an Empress. How would the history books record him in the future? Li Mu was supposed to be a hero of the great show. He saved the great show from internal problems and external threats. After his lifespan ended, he could enjoy the existence of the imperial ancestral temple. The imperial harem was never allowed to interfere with politics. Once he became an empress, the historians wouldn't praise him for being gentle and virtuous. He would be labeled as a demon empress for messing up politics. Lord May snorted softly and said, "Wind from an empty cave may not be without cause. If you had kept yourself clean and followed the rules, why would there be rumors of you becoming the demon empress?" Mr. May wouldn't say that. These words sounded more like the empress. Li Mu looked at her and asked, "Did Her Majesty ask you to say that?" Mr. May didn't admit or deny it. Li Mu said unhappily, "You're so heartless. Who am I doing this for?" "For me, for the demon nation, and for Her Majesty. I've only been married for a short time, and I've already been separated from my wife. I've been suffering from lovesickness every day. For the great show, for the Empress, I've risked my life to go deep into the demon nation and deal with the seventh realm. Is it all to make Her Majesty suspicious?" Feeling Li Mu's anger and resentment, Mr. May panicked and said, "That's not what Her Majesty meant." Li Mu said, "You're not Her Majesty. How would you know what Her Majesty meant?" "Her Majesty likes to make wild guesses," Mr. May asked. "Is His Majesty such a person in your eyes?" Li Mu glanced at her and said, "You've been by Her Majesty's side for so long, how can you not understand her? Her Majesty looks magnanimous, but she's actually more petty than anyone else. If you accidentally offend her, she'll chase you into your dreams and beat you up." A meaningful smile appeared on Mr. May's face as he asked, "So you're not the only one who thinks so? Is there anyone else?" Li Mu finally found a soulmate and said, "Also, whatever she thinks, she never says it out loud. It's all based on my own guesses. It's fine if I'm right, but if I'm wrong, she gets angry and tries to find ways to torture me. It's just me. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be able to stand her." Inside Huan Ji's palace, Huan Ji had just received news from Hu Lu. She confirmed once again, "You said that someone from the Great Zhou court came?" Hu Lu nodded and said, "The person who came is Commander May of the Great Zhou Empress. She's one of the most trusted female officials of the Great Zhou Empress. She was the one who captured me back then." Huan Ji frowned and said, "Why did she come to Thousand Fox Country?" Hu Lu said, "She said that she came on the orders of Empress Zhou Yi of the Great Zhou Empress to discuss an alliance with us. However, this might not be her real purpose. She's been with the state preceptor the whole time and has no intention of discussing with us." Huan Ji thought for a moment and said, "I'll go and take a look." Hu Lu stopped her in time and said, "You're the queen of Thousand Fox Country. How can a queen of a country take the initiative to meet an envoy from another country? Wouldn't this make you look inferior to Zhou Yi?" What Hu Lu said was what she couldn't accept the most. Huan Ji immediately dismissed the idea. She looked at Hu Lu and said, "Go and help me find out." Hu Lu nodded and said, "Okay." Just as she walked out of the door, Huan Ji suddenly said, "Wait." After complaining about the Empress with Mr. May, Li Mu felt much better. Mr. May sat on the main seat with a faint smile on his face. He asked Li Mu, "Her Majesty wants me to ask you, when will you go back?" Li Mu said, "Soon." Mr. May said, "You say that every time. Her Majesty wants an exact time." Chen Shi's meeting was almost over. Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "Not more than half a month." While they were talking, Hu Lu walked in from outside. Li Mu introduced her to Mr. May first. "This is..." Mr. May looked at Hu Lu and his eyes flashed. He said lightly, "No need to introduce her. When she was undercover in Shendu, I caught her with my own hands." Li Mu was the one who reported Hu Lu, and Mr. May caught her. The atmosphere in the hall was a bit awkward when the three of them met again. Seeing Hu Lu's expression, Li Mu tried to smooth things over. Let's not talk about the past. We're all friends now, and harmony is the most important thing. Mr. May glanced at Hulu. Who's friends with this fox? Hulu didn't back down. Do you think I want to? The man and the fox just met, and there was a strong smell of gunpowder in the air. Limu felt a headache coming. He deliberately put on a straight face and said in a deep voice, "Both of you, stop talking." According to his expectations, whether it was Lord May or Hulu, they should give him face. But this time, Limu miscalculated. Mr. May looked at Limu and asked, "Are you helping this fox?" Hulu also looked at Limu and asked, "Who are you helping?" It wasn't right for him to help either of them. Limu looked at them and said, "Same old rules. Why don't you two fight? The loser has to shut up." Limu liked the way the fox race solved their differences. There was no scheming and no beating around the bush. There was nothing that couldn't be solved with a fight. The loser had no right to speak, and the winner couldn't argue even if they wanted to. Mr. May glanced at Hulu and said, "Forget it. I don't want to bully her." Hulu sneered and asked, "You're afraid of losing, right?" Limu wanted to persuade Hulu, but she glared at him. To be honest, Hulu didn't know what was good for her this time. Her master, Phantom Princess, was only at the 5th level. How strong could she be? Limu didn't know how strong the Empress was. Mr. May had been with the Empress for many years, and he wasn't weak among the 5th level. It would be fine if Phantom Princess fought, but Hulu had no chance of winning. Where did she get her confidence from? Suddenly, Limu felt that Hulu's aura was slightly different from before. He seemed to think of something. He looked at Hulu's eyes and found a trace of slyness deep in her eyes. Limu was shocked. This Fox 6 was actually a transformed Phantom Princess. The Fox race was also very good at illusion techniques, and Phantom Princess was an expert. No wonder she was so confident this time. She was deliberately bullying Mr. May because he couldn't see through her illusion. Hulu wasn't Mr. May's opponent, but Mr. May couldn't defeat Phantom Princess no matter what. Limu wanted to stop her, but Hulu looked at him with a trace of threat. Limu thought about it carefully. If he exposed her here, a queen of a country would become his subordinate and bully another country's ambassador. It would be too tasteless. Wouldn't people laugh their heads off if they heard about it? Who knew better than him the embarrassment of having a fake identity exposed? Letting Phantom Princess die was much more serious than Mr. May losing to Hulu. Limu looked at Mr. May and said, "Sister May, let's forget about it." Mr. May said calmly, "Why should we forget about it? We've already agreed. If we back out now, we'll lose face for Her Majesty." Limu could only look at Fox 6, who was disguised as Fantasy Princess, and remind her, "All right then. Don't go too far." "Got it." Phantom Princess answered casually. 5 foxtails appeared behind her and attacked Mr. May. Without the use of Dharma treasures, a fox demon's tail was their most powerful weapon. Mr. May stood in place. His body was like a ball of catkins, floating with the wind brought by the foxtails. No matter how fast or how strong Phantom Princess attacks were, they couldn't touch the corner of his clothes. Phantom Princess was obviously very surprised. Just as she was about to speed up her attacks, Mr. May suddenly reached out and grabbed one of her tails. With a light tug, Phantom Princess cried out in pain as she was pulled over. Then, Mr. May raised his hand and pressed his palm on Phantom Princess's chest. This palm strike didn't injure her, but it broke her transformation technique. After a series of transformations, Fox 6's face revealed the original appearance of the Phantom Princess. Mr. May looked at her and shook his head. He said, "You're not Hulu. I didn't expect the Queen of Thousand Fox Country to do such a thing." Phantom Princess was very embarrassed to be exposed. What was more embarrassing was that she and Zhou Yi were both queens, but she wasn't even a match for Zhou Yi's subordinates. She lost face in front of Li Mu. She blushed from her face to her neck. She wanted to hide in a hole. Li Mu stood in place and looked at Mr. May blankly. His throat moved, and his lips felt dry. Of course, Mei Darren wasn't Huan Ji's opponent, and it was even more impossible for her to subdue Huan Ji so easily. Seeing how easily she dodged Huan Ji's attack, even Li Mu himself wouldn't be able to predict Huan Ji's every move. This seemingly simple move contained a great divine ability. Foresight. A cultivator at the 6th realm of Taoism had a certain chance of being able to divine a sliver of the heavenly secrets with a pinch of their fingers. Only at the 7th realm would this ability reach a minor accomplishment. They would be able to divine even more heavenly secrets. When facing an opponent whose cultivation was far inferior to theirs, using divination to predict their movements was even more common. Li Mu's eyelids twitched. He squeezed out a smile and said, "Sister May, you've improved so much in just a few months." "Congratulations." Mr. May sat down again and asked, "Where were we?" Li Mu said, "Speaking of His Majesty just now, His Majesty is magnanimous, gentle, intelligent, and considerate. During my time in the Demon Nation, I've been missing His Majesty all the time. I really hope that I can finish my work here soon so that I can see His Majesty sooner." Mr. May's mouth twitched. He said, "Who said that His Majesty is stingy and can't be offended at all?" Li Mu explained, "I was confused. His Majesty's heart is deeper than the sea and wider than the sky," Mr. May said calmly, "and who said that His Majesty doesn't say anything? Other than you, no one can stand it." Li Mu immediately said, "His Majesty is the ruler of a country. If his thoughts are always guessed by his subjects, then there's no dignity left. It's good to keep a little mystery." Mr. May said, "That's not what you said just now." Li Mu didn't know how to respond. Phantom Princess had recovered. Her expression returned to normal. She looked at Mr. May calmly and said, "You're not the commander of the inner guards. Who are you?" She was a little ashamed of losing to Zhou Yi's subordinate. But when she came back to her senses, she realized that something was wrong. She was very confident in her abilities. Unless she met someone like Li Mu, she wasn't afraid of anyone below the 6th level. How could she lose so easily? Mr. May looked at her with a kind of supreme dignity. He asked, "What? Didn't we meet in the monocular? Don't you recognize me already?" As soon as she finished speaking, light flowed around her body. She quickly changed from Mr. May to another beautiful woman. Phantom Princess's expression changed from anger to shock and then to fear. She hid behind Li Mu and pointed at Zhou Yi. She said in a trembling voice, "You. What are you doing here?" Li Mu looked at Phantom Princess with a pitiful expression. This fox really kicked an iron plate this time. In the monocular, she attacked the Empress. Now, the stingy and vengeful Empress chased her to her home. But she hid behind Li Mu and acted submissively. She didn't have the arrogance she had when she faced the Empress through the monocular. Obviously, the first confrontation between the two Empresses ended with Phantom Princess's defeat. Not only did she lose, but she lost completely. This was a merciless suppression of strength. Li Mu looked at the Empress and didn't speak for a long time. The Great Zhou wasn't a small demon nation like the Thousand Fox Nation. The Empress couldn't even leave the Great Zhou easily, let alone leave the Great Zhou and come to the dangerous demon nation. If the old officials in the imperial court heard about this, they would probably have a brain hemorrhage from anger. Of course, this wasn't a big deal. After all, it wasn't the first time the Empress was so willful. The problem was, if she wanted to come to the Yao Nation, then so be it. Why did she have to disguise herself as Lord Mei so that Li Mu would let his guard down? She had already said what she should and should not have said. There was no chance for her to salvage the situation. Li Mu sighed. Your Majesty, why are you here? Zhou-Yi snorted and said, if I didn't come, you would have fallen into the hands of this vixen sooner or later. Phantom Princess poked her head out from behind Li Mu. Just as she was about to refute, Zhou-Yi glared at her. She was angry and annoyed, but under Zhou-Yi's powerful aura, she didn't even have the courage to speak. After losing the monocular, she realized that other than envy, jealousy, and unwillingness to submit to Zhou-Yi, there was also fear in the depths of her heart. In front of the Empress, Phantom Princess became a cowardly fox. Zhou-Yi looked at Li Mu and asked, am I narrow-minded? Under her sharp gaze, Li Mu took a step back. Zhou-Yi took a step forward and continued to ask, am I making wild guesses? Phantom Princess hid behind Li Mu and spoke up for him. If you weren't making wild guesses, why would you use the monocular to monitor her all the time? If you didn't have any suspicions, why would you come here? Zhou-Yi glanced over. Phantom Princess shivered and instantly appeared outside the door. She continued, whether you have any suspicions or not, you know best in your heart. Chapter 495. Although Illusion Princess didn't have the confidence to scold the Empress because she was afraid, it was undeniable that what she said made sense. She said what Li Mu didn't dare to say. The Empress was even more suspicious than Lu Hanyan. Just as Illusion Princess said, if she trusted Li Mu, why would she use the telescope to check on Li Mu every day? Why would she come here personally? The Empress looked at Illusion Princess again, and Illusion Princess instantly disappeared behind the door. Li Mu was now in an awkward situation. Just now, in front of the Empress, he not only said that she was narrow-minded and liked to be suspicious, but he also asked the Empress if she wanted him to be the Empress of the Great Show. He had narrowed his own path. No, this wasn't narrow-mindedness. He had personally cut off his own path. Zhou-Yi looked at Li Mu. Li Mu also looked at her. His lips moved a few times. He wanted to explain, but he realized that his words were too harsh. He couldn't explain it now. He didn't plan to explain it. He lowered his head and said, I'm guilty. I shouldn't have talked about your Majesty. Please punish me. Since he couldn't explain, he might as well give up. With his understanding of the Empress, she would at most let him stand here for a while. Zhou-Yi glared at him and said, stand here for a while. Don't do it again. How could she really punish Li Mu? Not to mention that she admitted to what Li Mu said. If she punished him here, wouldn't she be giving that fox a chance? If she hurt his heart, that fox would take advantage of the situation and seduce him to become the Empress of Thousand Fox Country. Who would she cry to? Illusion Princess was outside the door. It would be best if Zhou-Yi punished Li Mu severely. That way, she would have a chance to interfere. Unexpectedly, Zhou-Yi didn't fall for it. Illusion Princess couldn't help but poke her head out and mock, that's it. Zhou-Yi waved her hand and Phantom Princess's body flew hundreds of feet away. The door of the main hall was closed immediately. The matter between the two of them could not be interfered with by others, especially by this fox with evil intentions. 300 meters away, Illusion Princess's figure appeared and immediately flew back. However, she found that as long as she was within 3 meters of the palace gate, she would be teleported 300 meters away again. After a few times, she stood 300 meters away and angrily pointed at the palace gate, shouting, "Surnamed Zhou, this is my place, get out here." The person she disliked the most and the person she loved the most stayed in her harem, only she was chased away. Huan Ji was so angry that her entire body trembled, but in the face of absolute power, she was helpless. A deep sense of helplessness surged from the bottom of her heart. In the square, Phantom Princess's chest heaved up and down. She had never desired power as much as she did now. But in the end, she could only fiercely stomp her feet, turn around and leave. Li Mu was surprised by the arrival of the Empress. She had actually turned into Mr. May. Li Mu's intuition told him that this was not the first time. After thinking about it, there were a few times when Mr. May was not quite right. After Li Mu complained about the Empress to her, he was ravaged that night. Li Mu did not dare to mention this matter, in case the Empress became angry again. The person she was most unhappy about coming to the Yao Kingdom was Illusion Princess. Li Mu had not seen her for 2 whole days. In front of a true Empress, her identity, status, strength, and everything else was mercilessly crushed. The prideful Illusion Princess chose to escape when facing the Empress. In the past 2 days, Li Mu had drafted a treaty of alliance between the Thousand Fox Nation and the Great Zhou. This treaty did not involve the common people. It was mainly about the trade between the 2 courts. In the Great Zhou's Department of Consecration, there were consecrators who were responsible for refining weapons, refining pills, and writing talismans. They supplied the local government offices of the 36 counties. A large amount of resources were needed here. Although the ancestral state was vast, humans had lived there for thousands of years. All kinds of resources were on the verge of exhaustion. On the contrary, although the life state was far smaller than the ancestral state, it was vast and had few demons. It was rich in all kinds of minerals and spiritual herbs. These were indispensable for refining weapons, talismans, and refining pills. These things were not very useful in the hands of demons. Most demons could only gnaw on spiritual herbs to absorb the spiritual power. The utilization of spiritual power was less than 10%, resulting in a large waste of resources. Through refining pills, the medicinal power could be maximized. All kinds of spiritual herbs complemented each other, and the benefits could reach more than 100%. The Thousand Fox Nation exchanged minerals, spiritual herbs, and spiritual jades with the Great Zhou court for pills, fulu, and weapons. They took what they needed and benefited each other. Hu Jiu took the treaty drafted by Li Mu and went to Phantom Princess for final confirmation. Zhou Yi was playing chess with Li Mu out of boredom. He picked up a chess piece and was about to put it down when his wrist suddenly stopped in the air and he looked outside. Then, Li Mu sensed that 2 auras connected to his mind appeared 100 miles away from the Thousand Fox Nation. Not long after, outside the Thousand Fox Nation, more than a dozen figures bowed to Li Mu and said, "Greetings, Grand Elder." These people all exuded the aura of the 5th realm, and a few of them had reached the peak of the 5th realm. Li Mu looked at them and said indifferently, "You may rise." This time, in addition to the 2 demon corpses, he also asked Qin Shi to bring all the corpse sect disciples above the 5th realm to the Thousand Fox Nation. The corpse sect disciples and the experts by Phantom Princess's side were the backbone of the force. They were not inferior to the Celestial Wolf Nation. Qin Shi was excited and said in a trembling voice, "Grand Elder, we did it." Li Mu felt everyone's excitement. For them, who had devoted their lives to refining corpses, there was nothing more satisfying than refining 2 7th realm spiritual corpses with their own hands. If there was, then they would definitely refine even more powerful spiritual corpses. Each of the people carried a coffin on their backs. Above their heads, there were 2 huge coffins floating. Li Mu thought, and the lids of the 2 coffins popped open. 2 figures flew out of the coffins and floated quietly in the air. After refining, the 2 7th realm demon corpses no longer had any demonic chi or corpse chi. They looked no different from ordinary people, only more muscular. However, their bodies were even more indestructible than 7th realm Xian demons. At the same time, they had the ability of zombies, which greatly restrained the physical body and primordial spirit. Originally, refining a level 7 demonic corpse wasn't that easy. Just the initial refinement and the collection of materials for refining the demonic corpse required an extremely long time. Emperor Bai had made these demon corpses for the later refining. Therefore, as early as 3,000 years ago, he had helped Li Mu complete the initial refining. As for the materials for the later stages of refining corpses, the rich and powerful demonic path holy sect would take care of them. Who knew how much time this would save him? On the other hand, the final refining step took at most 81 days and as short as 49 days. It was the easiest to complete. After entering the Thousand Fox Nation, Li Mu looked at Qin Shi and the others and said, "Stay in the Thousand Fox Nation for the time being and listen to the Queen's orders." Qin Shi and the others bowed and said, "Yes." Looking at the statue of the first elder of the Thousand Fox Nation, they thought of the rumors they heard on their way here in the Great Zhou. Some guesses about the first elder's identity surfaced in their hearts. Did the first elder possess Li Mu's body, or did Li Mu possess the first elder's body? Perhaps only the first elder in front of them knew the answer to this question. However, the answer was not important to the people of the Corpse sect. The Corpse sect was now completely separated from the sacred sect. They had no right to choose which side to take. However, the people of the Corpse sect were not afraid of the sacred sect, which was like a towering mountain in their hearts. They even wanted to get a few more corpses to refine. After personally refining 2 7th realm and 8 6th realm corpses, their confidence had greatly increased. After making arrangements for the people of the Corpse sect, Shoei looked at Li Mu in the Thousand Fox Nation Palace and asked, "Can we go back now?" Li Mu said, "I'll tell Huan Ji a few more things, then I can go back." He walked out of the harem and went to Huan Ji's bedroom. He learned from Hu Lu that Huan Ji had been cultivating in seclusion for a few days. Li Mu said, "Ask her to come out. I have something important to tell her." Hu Lu walked in. After a while, Huan Ji walked out. Seeing Zhou Yi standing beside Li Mu, she snorted and asked, "What's the matter?" Li Mu stretched out his hand, and a page appeared in his palm. He looked at Huan Ji and said, "This is the heavenly book of the demon clan. Take it." Li Mu snatched this page of the heavenly book from the demons in the demon emperor's cave. Later, he used the clear heart technique to memorize all the contents of the heavenly book. This page of the heavenly book was useless to him. 3,000 years ago, the demon emperor Bai Di used this page of the heavenly book to recruit countless powerful demons and became the demon emperor. As long as Huan Ji released the news, countless powerful demons would come to join her. For the demon clan who lacked cultivation techniques, this was an irresistible temptation. Huan Ji took the heavenly book from Li Mu's hand and said uncertainly, "You're really giving it to me?" Li Mu continued, "The heavenly book contains the cultivation techniques of various races. You can use this to attract the powerful demons of the demon kingdom. However, you can't just let any demon comprehend it. Other than trusted subordinates, the others have to rely on contributions to obtain opportunities." Huan Ji could feel the weight of this page. She nodded and said solemnly, "I understand." Li Mu took out a jade slip and handed it to her. He said, "This is the cultivation technique of your fox clan. From 1 tail to 9 tails, there are dozens of techniques. Take it too. It will be useful when the time comes." Huan Ji accepted the jade slip. Zhou Yi glanced at Li Mu but didn't say anything. Li Mu's mind moved again. 8 figures flew out from the surrounding mountains and landed on the square. Li Mu looked at the 8 demon corpses and said, "These 8 demon corpses are all at the 6th realm. After setting up a formation, they can fight against ordinary 7th realm cultivators. I'll leave them with you. I've also imprinted the method to control the demon corpses in the jade slip." Then, he waved his hand again. The last 2 demon corpses walked out from the demon emperor's space. Li Mu continued, "I'll leave these 2 7th realm demon corpses to you as well. The method to control them is also in the jade slip. With them, you won't have to worry about the Blue Wolf King and the demonic path sacred sect." Li Mu had already given Huan Ji everything he could. Although the number of powerful cultivators around her increased sharply and she could almost unify the entire demon nation, Huan Ji wasn't happy at all. She looked up at Li Mu and asked, "You're leaving?" Li Mu said, "With these 2 demon corpses, this place doesn't need me anymore. I have other things to do. I can't stay here forever. We'll meet again if fate wills it." He looked at Huan Ji, then at Hu Jiao and Hu Lu. He said, "Goodbye," then, he looked at the Empress and said, "Let's go." The 2 figures rose into the air. Above the clouds, Zhou Yi said bitterly, "Heavenly Book, 8 6th Realm cultivators, 2 7th Realm cultivators, and more than a dozen 5th Realm cultivators. I never knew you were so generous. The things you gave her are almost equivalent to a Fulu school." Li Mu knew she would be jealous. He immediately explained, "Your Majesty, you can't think like that. The stronger the Thousand Fox Nation is, the better it is for the Imperial Court and your Majesty. If I don't leave these demon corpses behind, the Thousand Fox Nation will definitely be destroyed by the Celestial Wolf Tribe once we leave. At that time, the Celestial Wolf Tribe will unify the demon nation with the support of the demonic path. The borders of the Great Zhou will never be peaceful. Your Majesty, you can't leave the throne to grow flowers and vegetables without worry. I'm doing this for the Thousand Fox Nation, but it's actually for your Majesty." Zhou Yi rolled her eyes at him. She asked, "You trust that fox so much? What if she betrays you?" Li Mu was stunned. He really hadn't considered this question carefully. Although he and Illusion Princess were friends who had gone through life and death together, distance tests a horse's strength, and time reveals a fox's heart. He and Illusion Princess were far from being friends for long. The Heavenly Book, the demon corpses, and Li Mu had given almost everything to Illusion Princess. If Illusion Princess betrayed him, then he would be in deep trouble. Although Li Mu had absolute control over these demon corpses and could take them back at any time, if such a thing really happened, the psychological blow and trauma he would suffer would never be healed. Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "Your Majesty, please wait here for a moment. I'll go down and talk to her." In the square of the Thousand Fox Nation's Imperial Palace, Illusion Princess stomped her feet and gritted her teeth. "He said he'll always be my little snake. I knew it." In his heart, "I'll always be behind Zhou Yi." At the mention of Zhou Yi, she was so angry that her chest began to hurt. "So what if you have a high cultivation? With a high cultivation, you can do whatever you want in other people's territory." She took a deep breath and said firmly, "Zhou Yi, remember this. I'll take revenge for today's humiliation in the future." As soon as Illusion Princess's voice fell, Li Mu's figure landed on the square in front of the palace. She was stunned for a moment, then asked in surprise, "You're not leaving?" Li Mu shook his head and said, "Before I leave, I have something to tell you." Illusion Princess asked, "What is it?" Li Mu looked into her eyes and said seriously, "This time, I've given you everything. Don't let me down." Before Li Mu could finish his sentence, Zhou Yi's face darkened. She grabbed the air and Li Mu was directly pulled to her side. She grabbed Li Mu's wrist and said angrily, "What are you talking about? Let's go." Just as the 2 of them were about to leave, in the distant sky, several powerful auras were rapidly approaching. Among them, the 2 leading auras were particularly powerful. Chapter 496. In the distant horizon, 6 figures were approaching Qinhu Nation. The Green Wolf King and another burly man stood side by side. When they were about to approach Qinhu Nation, the Green Wolf King crossed his arms and said in a deep voice, "Be careful. That bell is unusual. Don't hit it." Behind him, the others stopped abruptly, not daring to fly too fast. The Green Wolf King waved his hand, and a mountain rose from the ground and smashed toward Qinhu Nation. There was no bell projection outside the Thousand Fox Kingdom, but instead, a streak of golden light flew over from another direction. The golden light seemed to contain a rune. After it shot into the mountain that was smashing toward Qianhu Nation rolled back toward the Green Wolf King and the others. Boom! The Green Wolf King punched out, and after a deafening sound, the mountain shattered into pieces and smashed into the ground. Smoke and dust splashed up, and a large number of trees were crushed. Boulders the size of houses rolled in all directions. Although all the monsters within 100 miles of Qianhu Nation had entered Qianhu Nation, there were still many beasts in the mountains that died in this disaster. The Green Wolf King looked in the direction of the golden light, and a beautiful woman's face appeared in his eyes. When he saw the woman, the Green Wolf King's body trembled, and fear rose in his heart. He blurted out, "She hasn't left yet." At the same time, the sage sect elder who possessed the tiger monster was also shocked. He said in disbelief, "The Empress of the Great Zhou. It's the Empress of the Great Zhou." Others might not know the Empress of the Great Zhou, but as the sage sect elder in charge of the affairs between Zhu Province and Life Province, how could he not know the ruler of the most powerful nation in Zhu Province? But the Empress of the Great Zhou was not in Chengdu. Why was she here? After a moment of shock, his face lit up with joy. He immediately said, "Let's not worry about Qianhu Nation for now. If we can keep the Empress of the Great Zhou here, it'll be much more meaningful than unifying the Yao Nation." As he spoke, he had already formed a seal with his hands. In the next moment, thick and heavy dark clouds rolled up in the sky above Li Mu's head. The dark clouds rolled and changed crazily, and soon, an inverted lotus shape appeared. The moment the lotus flower took shape, golden lines fell from the petals of the lotus flower to the ground. The lotus flower and the golden thread formed a cage, completely imprisoning this part of the world. The power of heaven and earth coiled around the golden threads. Even a seventh realm cultivator would find it difficult to break this seal within a short period of time. The sage sect elder said to the Green Wolf King, "You and I will work together to deal with the Empress of the Great Zhou first." The Green Wolf King quickly formed a seal with his hands, and a full moon formed above his head. The sage sect elder's lips trembled slightly. Within the confined space, the power of heaven and earth began to vibrate violently. Clearly, he was preparing an extremely powerful spell. Li Mu transmitted an order with his mind, and 10 figures rose from the ground and stood beside him. Then, he summoned the law bell and covered Thousand Fox Nation. The aftermath of the battle between two 7th realm cultivators was enough to destroy the entire Thousand Fox Nation. 10 demonic corpses floated in the air, not concealing their auras at all. Seeing this, the Green Wolf King's wrist trembled, and his hand made a wrong seal. The spell was immediately interrupted, and the full moon above his head disappeared. He looked at the 10 demonic corpses, and his gaze stopped on the last 2. He mumbled, "They must be fake." The sage sect elder clearly did not expect such a turn of events. Looking at the 2 demonic corpses whose auras were no weaker than 7th realm cultivators, his lips trembled, and he could not continue his incantation. Damn it, he had guessed correctly. There really was a mysterious faction with 7th realm cultivators on the Zhu continent, and 2 of them at that. Before they came, they thought that it would be 2 7th realm cultivators against 8 demonic corpses whose combined strength was comparable to 7th realm cultivators. It was not a big problem. They did not expect that apart from the 8 6th realm demonic corpses, Thousand Fox Nation also had 2 7th realm demonic corpses, as well as the Empress of the Great Zhou. They were going to fight 2 against 5. The 10 demonic corpses counted as 3, and the Empress of the Great Zhou counted as 2. If they were not careful, the 2 of them would die here. Even the 2 7th realm cultivators were afraid, and the 4 6th realm cultivators, including the Celestial Wolf King, were even more shocked. The Green Wolf King was already scared before the battle started. He quickly said, "Honorable Elder, let's retreat first." Now is not the time to attack Heavenly Fox Nation. The sage sect elder looked at Thousand Fox Nation trapped by the Black Lotus and gritted his teeth. It's too late to regret now. This array can trap transcendence. Once it's completed, it will disappear after 15 minutes. Before that, we can only break it by force. It was impossible to win 2 against 5, but the Green Wolf King could not scold the sage sect elder for being stupid and cutting off his own escape route before he knew the opponent's strength. He said in a low voice, "Then let's break this array by force." The sage sect elder glanced at him and said, "We can break this array if we work together, but by then, we will be exhausted. How can we resist the Empress of the Great Show? I will take care of the 2 7th realm demonic corpses. You use all your strength to hold off the Empress of the Great Show for 15 minutes. Perhaps we still have a chance." The 2 7th realm demonic corpses had already surrounded them. As soon as the sage sect elder finished speaking, a cloud of black mist erupted from his body and enveloped the 2 demonic corpses. The Celestial Wolf King and the other 3 6th realm demonic corpses went up against the 8 6th realm demonic corpses. After all, they were living creatures with both body and soul. Their strength was stronger than the demonic corpses, but they were far from being able to fight 1 against 2. However, the 8 demonic corpses would not be able to take them down in a short time. The Green Wolf King knew that it was too late to retreat now. A hint of viciousness appeared in his eyes. He roared and turned into a huge wolf with the head of a wolf and the body of a human. The huge wolf spat out a huge beam of light that went straight for the Empress. The Empress formed a seal with her hands, and a huge circular barrier appeared in front of her. The barrier was colorless and transparent, and there were golden runes flashing on it. It blocked the beam of light from the huge wolf's mouth, and a temporary stalemate ensued. In Qianhu Nation, 2 figures flew out from a mountain. The Lord of Illusions looked at the huge wolf outside the bell and said softly, "The celestial wolf howls at the moon." The next moment, he and Huanyun flew up and shouted at Li Mu, "Let us out." Li Mu sent an order to the Dao Bell, and a gap appeared on the Dao Bell's shadow. The Lord of Illusions and Huanyun flew out of the gap and went straight for the Celestial Wolf King and the other demonic corpses. Li Mu couldn't participate in a battle of this level. He returned to Qianhu Nation and stood beside Huan Ji, watching the battle. Although the Lord of Illusions hadn't recovered his full strength, he was still half a level 7. With Huan Yun and the father and son working together, the 4 demonic corpses instantly felt the pressure increase, and they were immediately defeated. On the other side, the beam of light from the huge wolf's mouth had shrunk, but the Empress's expression was still calm. The Green Wolf King knew that it was no match for the Empress of the Great Zhou in terms of power. It closed its mouth and used its Dharma form to raise its huge wolf claw and swiped at the Empress. Just as the wolf claw was about to hit her, the Empress's figure suddenly disappeared. Bang! With a loud sound, the giant wolf's chest caved in at a speed visible to the naked eye. Its entire body tumbled backwards, crushing a mountain and countless trees. Its huge body was like a deflated balloon, rapidly shrinking. It had been beaten back to its original size. The Empress's figure appeared where the Green Wolf King had been standing. She wiped her hands with a handkerchief and threw it away. The handkerchief dissipated in the air and turned into dust. In Qianhu Nation, Li Mu heard Huan Ji gulp beside him. In fact, he gulped too. There would be no harm if there was no comparison. The powerful Blue Wolf King was no match for the Empress at all. The Emperor's qi that the millions of people in the Great Zhou dynasty had gathered over decades of psyche power was not something a wild beast that had cultivated for hundreds of years could compare with. Generations of emperors had relied on the Emperor's qi to sit firmly in the divine capital and dominate the country. The Empress's hand looked slender and fair, but it was enough to flatten a mountain with a single punch. At the same time, countless demons in Qianhu Nation were also watching the battle in the sky. Their emotions changed from fear to surprise and shock. I didn't expect Qianhu Nation to have so many powerhouses. Her Majesty will unify the demon nation soon. Who's that woman? She's so powerful. The Green Wolf King couldn't even take one hit from her. Qianhu Nation didn't expect this, did you? They've delivered themselves to you, outside the Law Bell, in the space enveloped by the Black Lotus. Two extremely different battles were taking place. 4 demon kings against 10 powerhouses of the same level, including a half-step 7th realm Lord of Illusions. They were no match at all. Qianhu King was caught off guard and was severely injured by the Lord of Illusions before being captured alive. The pressure on the other 3 demons increased, and they were all captured soon after. A ball of black fog was rolling around in the sky. The mana within the black fog was constantly fluctuating. Even though the situation inside could not be seen clearly, from the way the black fog was thinning, it was not easy for the Glory Sect Elder to deal with 2 level 7 demonic corpses at the same time. After Qianhu King and the other demons were captured, the Lord of Illusions and the 8 corpses went toward the Green Wolf King. The Green Wolf King could not even handle the Empress of the Great Zhou. With the Lord of Illusions and the corpses, he would probably be defeated immediately. The Green Wolf King released his aura and said angrily, "Lord of Illusions, are you sure you want to fight me to the death?" The Lord of Illusions sneered and said, "Old wolf, you didn't expect this day to come, did you?" The Green Wolf King looked at him and said sternly, "You forced me to self-destruct. You can't escape death today." As soon as he said that, a strong wave of dermic power came from his body. The Lord of Illusions' expression changed and he immediately retreated 100 feet with Huanyun. This space had been sealed. If the Green Wolf King self-destructed his body and primordial spirit here, everyone except the Empress of the Great Zhou would die. Bang! Bang! After 2 muffled sounds, the 2 7th realm corpses flew out of the black fog. The black fog reformed into a figure. The Sage Sect Elder's face was pale. He stood side by side with the Green Wolf King and said in a low voice, "I didn't expect the Empress of the Great Zhou to come here personally. I underestimated the Heavenly Fox Nation, but don't push me too far. It won't do anyone any good to die together." Li Mu had been paying attention to this person since just now. He looked exactly the same as the former demon sect elder, but his aura and cultivation were very different. Could it be that the sage sect elder self-destructed in order to escape last time and then took over the body of the tiger demon? No wonder he recovered so quickly. The Green Wolf King said, "Let us go. Otherwise, even if I die here today, I will drag the 1,000 Fox Nation down with me." The sage sect elder also released a strong aura. Apparently, he wanted to fight with the Green Wolf King. Fear appeared on the Lord of Illusion's face. He could not ignore the threat of the Green Wolf King. The destruction of the 7th realm was too strong. Back then, in order to deal with him, the 3 elders of Yu and Ming, who were in charge of the ancestral and life continents, came together. They only dared to sneak an attack when he was in seclusion. If the Green Wolf King and this sage sect elder really had the intention of destroying everything, even with the protection of the bell, the 1,000 Fox country might not be able to survive. Li Mu flew back to the Empress and asked telepathically, "Your Majesty, what do you think?" Zhou Yi looked at the Green Wolf King and the sage sect elder and frowned. She said in a low voice, "This space is sealed. The power of their self-destruction will be many times stronger. I may not be able to protect you." She looked at Li Mu and said without hesitation, "Let them go." Li Mu looked at the Green Wolf King again. This was the reason why there were very few battles to the death between 7th-level cultivators on the continent. Their deterrence was like a nuclear bomb. Even if they could not defeat their opponent, they could still drag both parties down with them. Although there were about 5 7th realm cultivators here, they still couldn't kill them. Seeing that the threat was effective, the Green Wolf King struck while the iron was hot. Let us go today, and I can swear that I will never invade the Thousand Fox Nation again. This promise didn't matter. After today, even if he had 10 times the courage, he wouldn't dare to invade the Thousand Fox Nation again. However, if he let them go just like that, Limu couldn't take it lying down. He looked at the Green Wolf King and said, "Where do you think this is? You can come and go as you please. I can let you go today, but only your primordial spirits can leave. You must leave your physical bodies behind." The Green Wolf King said without hesitation, "Don't even think about it." Limu said coldly, "Then there's no room for discussion. If you want to self-destruct, then self-destruct. I'd like to see if the great treasure of the Fulu school can withstand the power of your self-destruction." Blackmail. This was blatant blackmail. If they lost their physical bodies, the Green Wolf King's power would be greatly reduced. The sage sect elder, who had just recovered his cultivation, would definitely fall below the 7th realm again. The loss was too great. However, if they didn't agree, they could only self-destruct. This sage sect elder knew the name of the law bell of the Fulu school very well. If the Empress of the Great Show controlled it, the power of their self-destruction would be reduced by half even if they could break through the defense of the law bell. It would be easily neutralized by the Lord of Illusions and the others. At that time, their self-destruction would just be 2 grand fireworks displays. Anyway, this body wasn't his in the first place. At worst, he could just find another one. Self-destruction was just a threat. He had cultivated for 100 years to reach this level. How could he easily self-destruct his primordial spirit? He turned to look at the Green Wolf King and said in a low voice, "Give it to them. This is our mistake. Don't think about escaping unscathed." How could the Green Wolf King not understand this logic? However, he was truly unwilling to give up on his physical body. The sage sect elder said in a low voice, "This is an order." The Green Wolf King took a deep breath and looked down at his body reluctantly. An illusory shadow floated out from the top of his head. The sage sect elder also abandoned the tiger demon's physical body. Then, the Lord of Illusions released the 4 demon kings. The 4 demon kings' primordial spirits unwillingly left their bodies and followed the 2 primordial spirits into the distance. Limu didn't let the demon corpse stop them. The cultivation of high-level cultivators was mostly in the primordial spirit. If they wanted to completely kill a 7th realm cultivator, they would have to pay a terrible price. He didn't want the Empress to be hurt even a little. Besides, now they were no longer a threat to the Celestial Fox Kingdom. From today on, the Celestial Fox clan was officially the most powerful demon clan in the Demon Kingdom. Chapter 497. Thousand Fox Nation. 6 monster corpses were placed neatly in the square in front of the palace. The Blue Wolf King's was a 7th level body, while the other 5 were 6th level. The former monster sect elder was at the peak of the 6th level. If he wasn't stingy with materials, he could also refine early level 6th level spirit corpses. When the time came, the 8 Baron formation would become the 10 Terminal formation. It might not be enough to deal with a powerhouse like the Queen, but it wouldn't be a problem to trap the Blue Wolf King. Chen Shi, Han Shan, Sun Qi, and the others stood in front of the corpses, rubbing their hands excitedly. Their eyes were like Hujiao seeing a peerless handsome man. The Grand Elder was indeed the Grand Elder. He snatched several precious corpses for them as soon as he took action. 2 years ago, the corpse sect could only occasionally come across a 5th level corpse, and all the corpse refiners in the sect would fight over it. Now, 6th level powerhouses could be easily refined, and 7th level corpses were common. They had even personally touched 8th level corpses. The Grand Elder had brought the corpse sect to a new height of glory. Limu looked at Chen Shi and the others and said, "I'll leave these corpses to you." Chen Shi said solemnly, "Don't worry, Grand Elder. We won't let you down. The Blue Wolf King and the other monsters had lost their corpses, and their strength was greatly reduced. They needed to find new bodies and cultivate again. They wouldn't be a threat to Thousand Fox Nation in the short term. After Thousand Fox Nation's display of strength today, they wouldn't dare to have any ideas about this place even if they recovered their full strength. Limu could go back without worry. He looked at the powerful monster corpses and couldn't help but worry. He looked at Phantom Princess and said, "These are all I have. I'll give them all to you. In the future, let's go." Zhou Qiong performed an incantation gesture in her sleeve, and Limu's lips closed. Then she waved her sleeve and took Limu with her, transforming into a streak of light that left the state of Thousand Foxes and disappeared over the horizon. Huan Ji looked in the direction they left and sighed. It's already the 12th lunar month. I thought he could stay here for the new year. Father and brother are going into seclusion. I'm the only one left this year. Above the clouds, Limu's clothes were fluttering in the wind. The Empress was flying at an extremely fast speed, and they were soon out of the Yao Nation. When they passed by Mount Baiyun, Limu hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, please stop for a moment. I need to make a trip back to Mount Baiyun. It will be the new year soon, and I need to bring my wives back." Baiyun Mountain. Limu and the Empress, who had turned into Mr. May, descended on the main peak. This time, regardless of whether Lu Hanyan and Li Qing still had plans to go into seclusion, Limu was going to bring them back. It would be fine at other times, but during the new year, the family had to be reunited. Not long after, on a flying boat, Limu looked at Lu Hanyan and Li Qing, who had already reached the peak of the 5th realm. He was speechless for a long time. Among the three of them, he was the first to break through, but now he was the one with the lowest cultivation. Limu glanced at the Empress, who was standing at the bow of the boat. If it wasn't for her, under the bombardment of resources from Fulu School, perhaps he would already be the youngest 6th realm cultivator on the continent. In the past, his cultivation was only below that of the Empress. Now, even Lu Hanyan and Li Qing were above him. Lu Hanyan also noticed Mr. May, who was standing alone at the bow of the boat. It was mainly because her family of 3 was at the back of the boat, and she was standing alone at the bow of the boat. It was as if she didn't fit in with the rest of the world. Lu Hanyan only glanced at him and felt very lonely. She walked over and said, "Sister, please move back a little. The wind is strong in front." Mr. May didn't even turn his head. He said calmly, "I like to be in the wind." Lu Hanyan didn't know why he didn't want to turn his head. He stood coldly at the bow of the boat and didn't even look at them. Seeing that he had a coldness that kept people at 1,000 miles away, they didn't get closer. Limu walked to the bow of the boat and said to him, "It's almost New Year's Eve. Her Majesty should be alone in the palace that day. Please go back and tell Her Majesty that if she's free on New Year's Eve, she can come to my house for dinner." Mr. May turned around and glanced at him. He said calmly, "Her Majesty should be very busy that day." She might not agree, shouldn't do. When Limu and the girls returned, it was already night. At this time, it was snowing lightly in Shendu. Limu stood at the door and knocked. The courtyard door opened quickly, and a head popped out. When Limu saw Bai Tingxin, he knew something was wrong. Before he could do anything, the green snake had already pounced on him as usual and hung on him. Bai Tingxin just pouted and wanted to kiss Limu's face hard when she saw Lu Hanyan and Li Qing behind him. They slid down from Limu's body softly. At this time, Wan, Xiao Bai, and Yin Axian walked out of the courtyard. Big brotherly, Mississippi, benefactor, Limu smiled at Yin Axian. He hugged Wan and Xiao Bai and turned them around. Then, he said, "Go in quickly." The time spent in the Demon Nation was not short. When they returned to Shendu, it was close to the end of the year. It would be New Year's Eve in a few days. Compared to last year's desolation, this year's house was much livelier. Not only did Lu Hanyan and Li Qing return early, but there were also the two sisters, Yin Xan and Tingxin, in the house. In addition, the 4 rabid demons were also released by Li Mu from the Demon Emperor's space. The originally desolate house immediately became lively. It was just that there were more women than men. However, there were benefits to having more women in the house. As the end of the year approached, Li Mu did not need to worry about anything in the house, be it purchasing New Year's goods or decorating the house. After serving Phantom Princess for a few months, he only needed to lie down at home. Xiao Bai and Wan Wan could serve him comfortably. Ziwei Palace. It was the last morning court session of the year. The atmosphere in the court was fiery. In the past year, the Great Zhou's national power had turned from extreme decline to extreme prosperity. The faith of the people in the country had greatly increased. The southern countries had submitted, the demons in the 36 counties had submitted, and the Great Zhou had established diplomatic relations with the demon nation for the first time. All these major events made the court officials extremely excited. The huge dragon of the Great Zhou had been sleeping for too long. Finally, this year, it began to awaken. The Minister of Rights stepped forward and bowed. Your Majesty, with the achievements of the court last year, the end of the year should be celebrated. I propose that on New Year's Eve, we hold a banquet in the palace for all the officials to celebrate together. I second the motion. I second the motion. In the court, many officials stood up and asked for a memorial. The achievements of the last year were worthy of a celebration for all the officials in the court. Sheng Wanli walked behind the curtain and quickly came out again. His Majesty has spoken. New Year's Eve is a day for family reunion. In the past year, all the officials have worked hard for the court. The morning court session ended and you have neglected to accompany your families. His Majesty has specially allowed the officials to spend New Year's Eve at home. After the first day of the court session, he will invite the officials to a banquet in the palace. When Sheng Wanli finished speaking, the court was silent. These words made them feel extremely ashamed. The improvement of their faith, the deterrence of the various countries, the incorporation of the demons, and the establishment of diplomatic relations with the demon nation. All of these were due to Li Mu's contributions. They were far from being able to say that they had worked hard for the court session. At the same time, they were somewhat moved. In the past, because they were dissatisfied with a woman in power, they had repeatedly opposed His Majesty. However, not only did His Majesty not care about the past, he also sympathized with them and specially allowed them to reunite with their families on New Year's Eve. How magnanimous was this? After Huan Ji came to the Li residence, she had no intention of leaving. Li Mu asked Wan Wan and Xiao Bai to make a few more dumplings. It was supposed to be a reunion dinner on New Year's Eve, but it was not a reunion at all. The women in the family were clearly divided into 4 camps. Lu Hanyan, Li Qing, and Wan Wan were in one camp. Xiao Bai was temporarily with Huan Ji. This was the first time she met someone of the same race after the death of her family. After a while, she kept calling out, "Sister Huan Ji." The Empress and Bai Tingxin were in the same camp. Li Mu did not know when their relationship became so close. When the 2 empresses met, there was naturally tension. As for Lu Hanyan and Li Qing, they looked at Li Mu suspiciously from time to time. Although they did not ask, Li Mu knew that it would not be easy to pass the test at night. The reunion dinner was tasteless. Only Yinxin was a quiet snake beauty, which comforted Li Mu. This was the first time that Li Mu felt that it was not a good thing to have too many women in the family. The peace in the harem and the harmony between sisters were all fake. He had been deceived by that Rong Xiaorong. The happiness of Tongning and Li Yi only existed in novels. I stayed in the Celestial Fox Nation for a long time and saved her family, helped her seize power, and also became their Grand Preceptor, giving her ideas and strategies. Lu Hanyan asked, only the Grand Preceptor? Li Mu glanced at her and said, don't tell me you also heard some rumors. Don't you know me? Would I become the Empress of the Thousand Fox Nation? Don't believe those rumors. Lu Hanyan frowned and asked, what Empress? Li Mu was stunned for a moment and waved his hand. Forget it. Lu Hanyan looked at him indifferently. Speak. Li Mu said concisely, it's nothing. It's just that Phantom Princess is now the Empress of the Thousand Fox Nation. She wanted me to be the Empress of the Thousand Fox Nation, but I refused. Seeing that Lu Hanyan was looking at him with a scrutinizing look, Li Mu was disappointed and said, you doubt me, you actually doubt me. We've been married for so long, and you've been in closed-door training at Mount Baiyun. Do I have any complaints? These days, I've kept my chastity to you and never flirted with other women. So many people have tempted me with their beauty, and that fox spirit even asked me to be the Empress. I've kept my bottom line, but now you're doubting me. Li Mu was full of complaints. Lu Hanyan thought carefully and realized that after they got married, she had indeed spent very little time with Li Mu. A look of guilt appeared on her face. She grabbed his hand and said, didn't I keep Wan Wan by your side? She and Xiao Bai only have you in their hearts. They'll be yours sooner or later. It's your fault for keeping your chastity. Li Mu waved his hand and said, they're still too young. I still think of them as children, Xiao Bai and Wan Wan, one was a fool and the other was a fool. Li Mu couldn't convince himself for the time being. Lu Hanyan looked at him and said, you think Wan Wan and Xiao Bai are too young, but Her Majesty isn't young, right? She's almost mature. Li Mu covered her mouth and said, what are you saying? As a woman, there were some things that Lu Hanyan could sense with her intuition. Many years ago, when she first saw the Empress, who was still the Crown Princess, she had inexplicably felt some hostility toward her. Only now did she realize where that trace of hostility had come from. At that time, she had a premonition that that woman would steal her man in the future. At this moment, she couldn't describe what she was feeling. Lu Hanyan shook her head and tossed this thought to the back of her mind. She then gave Li Mu a look. Li Mu understood. With a flick of his finger, he extinguished the candles in the room. Every year on the first day of the first lunar month, the imperial court would routinely hold a grand court assembly. During Emperor Xian's reign, the 36 counties were unstable. The Yao Kingdom and the Ghost Realm repeatedly invaded, and the small countries in the south also began to harbor disloyalty year after year. In the entire Grand Court Assembly, there were very few good things worth mentioning. After the Grand Court Assembly, the officials would often sink into a long period of worry. So in the end, Emperor Xian simply cancelled the Grand Court Assembly. Out of sight, out of mind. This Grand Court Assembly was the one that the officials had looked forward to the most in the past few decades. In the past year, Great Zhou had achieved too much. The number of crimes in each county had decreased, the faith of the people had increased, and the incorporation of the demons had been exceptionally smooth. Now, each county no longer needed the Department of Worship to govern. The cooperation between the government and the demon department was enough to ensure the peace of the land. The Yao Kingdom, which had always been Great Zhou's enemy, also sent an envoy this time to convey the goodwill of the Queen of Thousand Fox Country. The ambassadors of the southern countries, except for Shan Country, all expressed their allegiance to Great Zhou. During the morning court assembly, the officials rarely closed their mouths. After the Grand Court Assembly was dismissed, His Majesty held a grand banquet in the palace for the officials. All the officials returned home to their heart's content. The streets of Shin-Du were decorated with lanterns and colored banners. The common people wore new clothes and flooded the streets to wish each other a happy new year. After the banquet, the officials returned to their manors. This was their longest holiday of the year. Except for a few important yamens, the rest of the yamens would only open after the Lantern Festival. Li Mu walked out of the palace gates and strolled on the streets. It had been a long time since he felt the greetings of the common people. Lord Li, Happy New Year. Long time no see, Lord Li, you're amazing. You even settled the Yao Kingdom. I heard that the Queen of Thousand Fox Country wants Lord Li to be her empress. Is that true? After not seeing Li Mu for a few months, the common people's enthusiasm did not diminish. In fact, it was even greater than before. Everyone knew that Lord Li had not been slacking off in the past few months, nor did he abandon the common people. Instead, he had gone to the most dangerous Yao Kingdom to fight on the front lines to protect Great Zhou and the common people. Once again, reality proved that this was a person they could always trust, no matter what. The feeling of bathing in the mind power made Li Mu feel very comfortable. As he walked, he continuously absorbed the mind power of the common people. At a certain moment, Li Mu's body suddenly trembled and he stood rooted to the ground. At the same time that he absorbed the mind power, a huge surge of heaven and earth power suddenly descended from the sky and surged into his body. The heaven and earth power was originally very violent, but this surge of heaven and earth power was very gentle. After entering Li Mu's body, it directly merged with his primordial spirit. Li Mu's cultivation level, at this moment, jumped from the early stage of the fifth realm to the peak of the fifth realm. Li Mu stood rooted to the ground in shock. He was caught off guard by this huge surprise. On the path of cultivation, whether it was cultivating the body or the primordial spirit, it was all about finding ways to allow the body and the primordial spirit to hold more dharmic powers. The primordial spirit was like a container. The larger the container, the more dharmic powers it could hold, and the stronger it would be. The path of cultivation was to expand the container. After this surge of heaven and earth power merged with Li Mu's primordial spirit, his primordial spirit instantly became much stronger. The dharmic powers it could hold also greatly increased. There was only one reason for this situation to occur so inexplicably. The Taoist technique that he created had received the approval of heaven and earth. Just like Xiao Yu back then, with just a few short sentences, it had resonated with heaven and earth. It had instantly raised her from a small Yin spirit to a fifth realm evil spirit. Li Mu had once been very unhappy about this. Now, he finally experienced Xiao Yu's happiness. Just as he was feeling puzzled, a trace of understanding suddenly rose in his heart. Establishing a heart for heaven and earth, establishing a life for the people, inheriting the lost knowledge of the past saints, establishing peace for all ages. These were once just grand words that he had said. However, whether it was for the Empress or for the Great Zhou, Li Mu was truly living up to these words. Establishing a heart for heaven and earth, establishing a life for the people. The people of the divine capital had their own judgment. Did spreading the heavenly book's contents in order to inherit the lost knowledge of the past saints count? For the sake of establishing peace for all ages, taking in the demons of the Great Zhou, turning enemies into friends with the demon nation, and promoting the peaceful coexistence of humans and demons. Although it was only a small step, he was still working towards this great goal. The empowerment of the power of heaven and earth was his reward. This was not all of the reward. When Li Mu completely lived up to the phrase, establishing peace for all ages, he would also completely master these few lines of the mantra. At that time, who knew what level the empowerment of the power of heaven and earth would allow him to reach? Li Mu let out a long sigh of relief. His previous thinking was indeed correct. This was the true shortcut of cultivation. When Taoist techniques appeared in the world, other than the empowerment of the power of heaven and earth, they would also be accompanied by supernatural powers. For example, Xiao Yu's snow domain. Chapter 499. Inside Changle Palace. Li Mu looked up and down at the little girl floating in the air. Even now, he still couldn't understand how the Law Bell could become a human. He had only heard of plants, animals, and insects becoming spirits. He had never heard of a transcendent artifact becoming a spirit. Li Mu looked at her and asked the question he was most concerned about. Can you still become a bell? As soon as she finished speaking, a small clock appeared under the little girl's body. She sat on the clock and blinked her large eyes as she looked at Li Mu. Li Mu relaxed. As long as the Law Bell was still there, it was fine. If he really lost the bell, not only would he lose a powerful transcendent artifact, but he also wouldn't be able to answer to Aflu's school. Then, he said to the little girl, actually, you misunderstood. I'm not your father. The little girl said stubbornly, father. Li Mu wanted to correct her, but the Empress waved her hand and said, it's useless for you to say this to her. Because of you, she was able to transform. In her heart, you are her father. In fact, this is the case. Li Mu's lips moved, but he didn't say anything else. The Empress's words made sense. Although the Law Bell had existed for a long time, it was much harder for a transcendent artifact to gain intelligence than a creature that was born with intelligence. She had been influenced a lot by Li Mu. After transforming, she could speak the human language, but her intelligence was only equivalent to that of a 2- or 3-year-old child. She was born because of Li Mu, so naturally, she saw him as her father. The first person she saw was the Empress, so she saw her as her mother. Many animals had similar habits. If the word father was macroscopic, it wasn't just limited to biology. It wasn't wrong to say that Li Mu was her father. After all, it was Li Mu who created her. But no matter what, her mother should be Lu Hanyan. Li Mu wanted to explain to her, but she stretched out her arms to the Empress and said, Mother, hug. The Empress reached out and hugged her. A smile that Li Mu had never seen before appeared on her face. Li Mu swallowed the words he was about to spit out when he saw the overflowing maternal instinct of the Empress. Based on his understanding of the Empress, he was certain that if he dared to ruin the Empress's mood, what awaited him would be an extremely cruel ending. Women of this age were at the age when their maternal instincts were overflowing, especially women of the same age as the Empress. Even if they married later, their children would already be able to run and jump. Although the Empress was still inexperienced, she also had the instincts of a woman. Today, he wasn't in the mood to experiment with Tao techniques. With complicated feelings, he said to the Empress, Your Majesty, how about I bring her back first? For such a young lady to appear in the imperial palace, beside the Empress, and even call her mother, if this matter were to spread, the entire imperial court, the entire Shendu, and even the entire Great Zhou would be in an uproar. The Empress clearly knew this as well. She gently kissed the young lady's face and said to her, Go home with your father first. Mother will come and see you later. As Li Mu carried the young lady out of the imperial palace, he was still pondering over the Empress's words. No matter how he listened to them, they sounded strange. It was as if this young lady was really Li Mu's child. However, Li Mu quickly put this matter to the back of his mind and cast an invisibility spell on the young lady. The outside world had always been saying that he was the Empress of the Demon Kingdom. If the people of the Shendu saw this, who knew what kind of gossip would spread? Changle Palace. After Li Mu left, Zhou Yi summoned Shangguan Li and lightly said, Have the Assistant Minister of Personnel, Zhang Chen, and Prince Shou come and see me. After returning to the Li mansion, Li Mu discovered that the courtyard was very lively. Not only was Ting Xianin Xin at home, even Phantom Princess was there. He removed the invisibility spell on the young lady. Wan Wan, who ran over, was stunned. She asked, Young master, whose child is this? Lu Hanyan, Li Qing, and the others also looked at Li Mu. Under the gaze of so many people, the young lady seemed to be a little shy. She hugged Li Mu's neck and nervously said, "Father." Wan Wan and Xiao Bai were dumbfounded. The other pretty faces in the courtyard also turned pale with fright. Li Mu hurriedly said, "Listen to me. It's not what you think." He had turned the Dao Bell into its original form and swore to the heavens in order to gain their trust. In fact, after Lu Hanyan and the others discovered the young lady's true form, there was nothing to be suspicious about. She was clearly a spiritual body. She couldn't have been born by Li Mu or a ghost. The adorable young lady quickly ignited the radiance of motherly love in the girls. They surrounded Li Mu and touched her face and pinched her arms. Xiao Bai suddenly asked, "Benefactor, what's her name?" Li Mu was stunned. He hadn't thought about this question. Thus, the girls began to enthusiastically give her a name. Wan Wan murmured, "What's her surname? Is it young Masters Li?" Li Mu thought for a moment and said, "Her surname is Zhong." After all, the Dao Bell was from the Fulu school. It wasn't appropriate for her to take his surname. Even if he was the future sect master, it wasn't appropriate for him to take the sect's assets as his own. The girls all expressed their opinions about the name of the young lady, but no one could convince anyone. Lu Hanyan looked at her pink little face and suddenly said, "Since she's a consciousness created by the Dao Bell, why don't we call her Zhong Yi?" Li Qing agreed. "This name has a good meaning." Xiao Bai also chimed in, "Zhong Yi, it sounds very nice." Li Mu shook his head decisively. "This name won't do, definitely not." Lu Hanyan had thought of this name with great difficulty, but Li Mu rejected it for no reason. She said in dissatisfaction, "Why don't you tell me why this name won't do?" Li Mu didn't know how to explain it to her. Just as he was in a dilemma, Yin Xan suddenly stepped forward and helped Li Mu out of his predicament. "How about the name Zhongling?" Zhongling, is both her name and her identity. The girls thought for a moment and felt that this name was more suitable. Even Lu Hanyan gave up on her original name. She picked up the little girl and said with a smile, "Ling, let's hear you call me mother." This time, she didn't get what she wanted. No matter how she teased her or tempted her with delicious food, the little girl didn't say a word. Wan Wan said, "Young miss, she's just been born, so she probably doesn't know how to say mother yet. She'll learn very quickly if you teach her." At this moment, there was a spatial fluctuation in the courtyard of the Li residence, and the Empress figure appeared. The little girl stretched out her hands and said happily, "Mother." Li Mu looked at Lu Hanyan, whose expression had changed, and his vision turned black. In the courtyard of the Li residence, the girls were teasing the little girl Zhongling. Li Qing, Lu Hanyan, and her maid were conducting a joint interrogation of Li Mu. Without waiting for them to ask, Li Mu took the initiative to explain, "She's just a newborn baby." What kind of thoughts can a newborn have? The first person she sees will be her father and mother. Coincidentally, when she was born, Her Majesty and I were in the palace. I definitely didn't teach her this. As the first wife, Lu Hanyan was still angry. Li Qing pulled her wrist and said, "This isn't his fault." Lu Hanyan said unhappily, "Why are you always protecting him?" Li Mu felt gratified that one of the judges had already betrayed him. Since he met Li Qing, as the leader, she had always protected him. This kind of feeling was not something that Lu Hanyan could understand. Wan Wan also held Lu Hanyan's hand and said, "Miss, I think what the young master said this time is right." Li Qing and Wan Wan both stood on Li Mu's side. Even if Lu Hanyan was angry, she couldn't vent it on Li Mu. Li Mu struck while the iron was hot. He grabbed her hand and said, "She's a child. She doesn't know anything. She'll know everything after I teach her." Li Mu pulled her back into the courtyard and said to Zhongling, "In the future, when you see her, you have to call her mother. Do you understand?" Zhongling nodded as if she understood. She looked at Lu Hanyan and said in a childish voice, "Second mother." Li Mu's vision darkened again. He no longer hoped that this little brat would be able to improve the harmony of the family. In this family, other than Wan Wan and Xiao Bai, there was no room for another woman. Even if there was room, they would build another courtyard next door. This was for his own sake. Lu Hanyan's tone suddenly softened. Actually, I know that little sister Qing and I are always in seclusion and can't accompany you for a long time. This is unfair to you. Wan Wan and Xiao Bai are also too young. If you want, you can have someone who can always accompany you by your side. Besides Her Majesty, I think Tingxin and Yinxin would also be willing, Li Mu sneered in his heart. If Li Qing had said this, he might have believed it a little. Coming from Lu Hanyan's mouth, he couldn't even believe the punctuation marks. If he dared to nod his head now, he would have to sleep alone in the study for the next 3 days. After knowing each other for so many years, how could Li Mu not understand her tricks? Li Mu waved his hand and said, "Are you joking? I don't want to at all. Tingxin and Yinxin were just looking for me. I'll go over for a moment." After leaving Lu Hanyan's room, Li Mu went to the courtyard where the two sisters lived. The two sisters were in the room. Li Mu walked forward and asked, "Yinxin, Tingxin, are you looking for me for something?" Bai Tingxin looked at Li Mu reluctantly and said, "Father said in the spirit snail today that he wants us to go back to the Eastern Sea. Humans had a new year, and the dragon clan had a similar festival. They would worship the dragon god on the 2nd of February every year. This was the most important festival for the dragon clan. Both Tingxin and Yinxin had half of the dragon clan's bloodline. The White Demon King and his wife had already gone to the Eastern Sea in advance." Li Mu said, "I'll get someone to send you to the Eastern Sea." Yinxin smiled and said, "No need. We'll go by water. There won't be any danger." Li Mu thought for a moment. With their current strength and wealth, even a 5th realm cultivator would have to avoid them. Normally, there wouldn't be any danger. However, just in case, Li Mu still gave them 2 realm breaker pills. He refined these pills when he was in the Demon Kingdom. Other than giving them to Phantom Princess's subordinates, Li Mu also kept a few for himself. Tingxin and Yinxin's strength had increased rapidly in the past few months, especially Tingxin. Her cultivation had already surpassed Yinxin. She was only 1 step away from the 5th realm. Needless to say, this was naturally due to the Empress's efforts. As long as she could hug the Empress's thigh, her cultivation path would be smooth. Li Mu used 3 days to help them refine the realm breaker pills. He waited until their cultivation had broken through before sending them away. Before they left, the two sisters took the initiative to hug Li Mu. Tingxin even gave Li Mu a spirit snail for communication. Considering her clingy personality, Li Mu was worried that she would call the spirit snail every day to annoy him. He didn't want to accept it at first, but he was also worried that they wouldn't be able to contact him if something happened. Thus, he could only reluctantly accept it. Without the two sisters, the house was much quieter. Lu Hanyan and Wan Wan went to Great Music Lane. Xiao Bai took Phantom Princess to Tourish and Du. Other than the 4 maids, only Li Mu and Li Qing were at home. The two sat on the swing in the courtyard with their fingers interlocked. Li Mu asked, "When are you returning to Mount Baiyun this time?" Li Qing said softly, "Sister said that we'll wait until after the Lantern Festival." Li Mu was a little silent, but that was all. Li Qing and Lu Hanyan were not ordinary women. It was impossible for them to stay at home like ordinary women and help their husband and children. They couldn't give up their cultivation. Li Mu was the same. However, his cultivation method was special. He relied on psychokinesis instead of seclusion. Beside Li Mu, the one who didn't care about cultivation and only wanted to grow flowers and plants was the Empress, who had the highest cultivation. Li Qing felt Li Mu's disappointment and said with some guilt, "Sister, and I know that this is unfair to you. If there was someone who could always be by your side, we wouldn't object. But I heard from sister that you refused." Li Mu looked at her blankly and asked, "You mean, she wasn't joking?" Changle Palace. Zhou Yi hugged Zhongling. The little girl shook her head and looked at her and asked, "Mother, does father not want us anymore?" Zhou Yi kissed her face and said, "He'll be here in a while." Not long after, Li Mu walked into Changle Palace with a look of regret. Zhongling flapped her arms and flew into his arms. Li Mu sighed, looked at the Empress, and asked, "Your Majesty, what should we do?" Zhou Yi glanced at him and said, "Don't ask me about the trouble you caused." Li Mu thought about it. If he forcefully corrected Zhongling, it might cause irreparable damage to her young heart. No matter what, the child was innocent. So he looked at the Empress and said, "How about this? In the future, Ling will call me father and you mother. I'll call you your Majesty, and you can call me Li Mu. How about we call each other?" Even if we stay in the divine capital, what use is there? It is better to cultivate in the sect and work hard to raise our cultivation. Only this way will we have a chance to increase our lifespan. A look of understanding appeared on Li Qing's face. She had not thought of this point at all. Lu Hanyan finally took a deep breath and said through gritted teeth, "Most importantly, once our lifespan ends, someone will be able to openly be with him for 60 years or even more. How can I let her succeed so easily?" Changle Palace. Zhou Yi, who was leaning against the dragon throne and reading, suddenly raised her head and frowned. "Who is talking about us?" "The Li estate." Li Mu patiently taught Lu Hanyan how to read. Today, he was in an extremely good mood. Lu Hanyan and Li Qing had decided to stay for another month. This meant that during this month, he did not have to stay alone in an empty room. It seemed that they had already understood that women could not only focus on cultivation, but they could not leave their families behind. Many women were too busy with work and lacked companionship. This caused them to feel empty and lonely, resulting in them having an affair and benefiting old Wang next door. What Lu Hanyan was worried about was clearly the Empress next door. In the end, the one who benefited was Li Mu. On odd days, he would dual cultivate with Lu Hanyan, and on even days, he would dual cultivate with Li Qing. The relationship between husband and wife was harmonious. After another month, it was not impossible for the three of them to cultivate together. Under his careful guidance, Zhongling had already changed a lot. Now, no matter if she saw Lu Hanyan or Li Qing, she would sweetly call them mother. Of course, although she called them mother, in her heart, her only real mother was the one in the palace. Every 2 days, she would pester Li Mu to bring her into the palace so that the three of them could reunite. Li Mu wrote 2 words on the paper and said to Zhongling, "This is the word Zhong, and this is the word Ling. When these 2 words are connected, it will be your name." The little girl earnestly wrote on the paper and murmured, "Zhong, Ling." She learned very quickly. Li Mu was about to teach her a few more words when a certain spirit snail in the Demon Emperor space suddenly made a buzzing sound. Hearing this sound, Li Mu's head also buzzed. At such a close distance, the Empress could summon him into the palace at any time if there was anything. This spirit snail call must be from Ting Xan. If she had something important to do, it would be fine. However, every time she called out to Li Mu, she would either ask Li Mu what he had eaten in the morning, or ask Li Mu what he had done in the afternoon, or what he was going to do at night. Li Mu could receive her call anytime, anywhere, and when he was doing anything. Now, Li Mu would panic whenever he heard the sound of the spirit snail. Chapter 501. East County of Gradeshow, somewhere along the Lee River. The terrain of Gradeshow was complicated. There were many mountains and hills in the northwest, while the counties in the east were mostly plains. The Lee River was the river that flowed through the East County and finally merged into the East Sea. The river was wide and the flow was slow. Many fishermen lived by the river. However, at this time, the usually quiet Lee River was surging with waves. Sometimes, huge waves that were dozens of feet high would roll up. Many fish and shrimp carcasses were swept to the shore. The fishermen who were fishing on the river in the distance stopped their boats and pulled to the shore. They looked at the strange phenomenon on the river in horror and stayed far away. Those who saw it had already reported it to the authorities. The nearby cultivators also looked at the river in fear and did not dare to get close. There were obviously powerful water clan fighting under the water. Just a little bit of aura was enough to make them tremble. The East Sea was the world of the water clan. The shore of the East Sea was rich in water. There were also many water demon clans gathered there. They were the most powerful force among the demon clans in the counties. Usually, even human cultivators did not dare to provoke them. Under the river, Inshin and Tingshin stood side by side, controlling their flying swords to attack the man in white not far away. The man in white held a long spear and walked slowly in the water as if he was taking a stroll. He waved the weapon in his hand casually and blocked all the attacks from the sisters. After their strength improved, the sisters were full of confidence. Until they met this flood dragon, their confidence was completely shattered. No matter what methods they used, they were easily resolved by the other party. Not only was the flood dragon powerful and immune to poison, his aura was also suppressing them. Obviously, the dragon clan bloodline in his body was thicker than the sisters. The man in white approached the sisters and said, "Beauties, you'd better not resist. I really don't want to hurt you." Bai Yinshin's face darkened and asked, "What do you want?" The man in white smiled and said, "It's nothing. I just want to spend the night with you two beauties." Bai Tingshin shouted, "Just give up. We have a husband. If my husband finds out about this, he'll peel off your dragon skin, pull out your dragon tendons, and make it into a slingshot to shoot birds." The white-clothed man said indifferently, "I want to see which guy has such good fortune. If he has the guts, tell him to come find me." Bai Tingshin took the spirit snail from her sister and said, "Tell me your name. My husband will be here soon." The man in white snorted and said, "I am Ao Run, the white flood dragon king of Lee River." Bai Tingshin said coldly, "Ao Run, you will regret this." Ao Run only smiled and said, "Beauties, why don't you just follow me? No one in the East County will dare to mess with you." The two sisters said at the same time, "Don't even think about it." Ao Run shrugged and didn't force them anymore. He politely extended his hand and said, "Since that's the case, why don't you two beauties go to my cave residence to rest first? When your husband comes, I'll let you know who's the one who's worthy of you following." The two sisters looked at each other. Even if they joined forces, they would not be a match for this flood dragon. It would be better to temporarily hold him down and wait for reinforcements. Bai Yinshin said, "We can go with you, but before our husband comes, you can't do anything to us." Ao Run snorted and said, "Who do you think I am? If I say I'll wait for him to come, then I'll wait for him to come." "Oh right, what's your husband's cultivation?" Bai Tingshin said, "Our husband is at the 5th level." Ao Run completely relaxed. In this Lee River, let alone a 5th realm expert, even a 6th realm expert wouldn't be able to do anything to him. These two beauties would quickly realize that compared to Ao Run, their husbands were nothing. They would then turn around and throw themselves into his arms. Over the years, countless demonesses had fallen for him like this, unable to extricate themselves. Ao Run smiled at the two sisters and extended his hand, "Please." The two sisters maintained their vigilance and followed him all the way to a cave at the bottom of the river several miles away. This cave was rather luxurious. Although it was at the bottom of the river, it wasn't inferior to a human's courtyard at all. It occupied a large area, and there were many rugged strange rocks and huge corals erected inside the cave. It looked very beautiful. Inside the cave, there were many women's laughter and laughter. When they saw the sisters enter, their faces revealed hostility at the same time. These women were all demons. Some were from the beast race, and some were from the water race. One of them, a plump Qingyu, swam over and said with dissatisfaction, "My king, why did you bring back 2 more snakes?" Ao Run hugged her in his arms and said, "Don't worry. Even with these 2 beauties, I won't forget you, Qing." Feeling Ao Run's hand caressing her sensitive parts, Qingyu twisted her body and said delicately, "My king, you're so naughty. Let's go to the room." Seeing the 2 demons leave, the 2 sisters felt a chill in their hearts. Ting Axayan even tightened her grip on the spirit snail, hoping that Li Mu would come quickly. Shen Du, a stream of light streaked across the sky and sped toward the east. The cultivators in Shen Du were all shocked by the speed of that unknown existence. It was a speed that cultivators below the upper 3 realms couldn't possibly have. In the sky above Zhong County, on a small and exquisite flying boat, Zhongling sat on Li Mu's shoulder. Li Mu looked worried as he rushed toward the East County at full speed. With his cultivation, if he flew or used a high-level divine travel talisman, it would take him at least 3 days to reach the East County. Therefore, he specially asked the Empress for a flying artifact. Although this flying boat was very small and could only accommodate 1 person, it was very fast. If it was powered by a supreme-grade spirit jade, it could match the full speed of a 7th realm cultivator. A 7th realm cultivator could travel 1,000 miles in a second. Hearing that Ting Axayan was in trouble, the Empress was furious. She wanted to go personally, but Li Mu stopped her. There were no 6th realm demons in the Great Show. He could deal with a mere flood dragon alone. More than 2 hours later. East County, County Office. A stream of light streaked across the sky and landed in the East County office. The constables in the county office were shocked. They all drew their weapons and surrounded a figure. They shouted, "Who is so bold to barge into the county office?" Li Mu said in a deep voice, "Where is the county governor of the East County?" His voice was like a bell. The magic power in the constables' bodies surged when they heard it. At this moment, 3 figures hurriedly walked out of the county office. The person walking in front was a middle-aged man. When he saw Li Mu, his expression changed. He walked forward and cupped his hands. "Lin Ting, the county governor of the East County, greets Lord Li." The county governor had to participate in the imperial court every year. Not long ago, County Governor Lin had seen Li Mu. Although the county governor and county lieutenant of the East County had never seen Li Mu before, they could guess the identity of this young man from County Governor Lin's attitude towards him. They immediately bowed and said, "Greetings, Lord Li." Li Mu waved his hand and asked, "Do you know that there's a flood dragon called Ao Run in the Li River?" Lin Ting said, "Lord Li, everyone in the East County and the demon realm knows of Ao Run's name. His original form is a white flood dragon, and his strength is at the peak of the 5th realm. With his flood dragon body, he can even fight against a 6th realm demon in the water. The county office once tried to recruit him into the demon division, but he rejected it. Because he's too powerful, the county office didn't dare to force him." Li Mu asked directly, "Do you know where his cave residence is?" Lin Ting said, "Yes." Li Mu said straightforwardly, "Gather the experts of the East County Office, Demon Division, and Consecration Department. Follow me to the Flood Dragon's cave residence." Lin Ting still didn't know what had happened, but he knew that Ao Run was in big trouble. Who was Lord Li? With his own strength, he had stirred up the entire demon kingdom. He was a legend who dared to fight against a 7th realm demon and won. Obviously, he wanted to find trouble with Ao Run. No matter how arrogant this flood dragon was, he was going to be in trouble this time. Under Lin Ting's call, in just 15 minutes, dozens of cultivators above the 4th realm gathered in the East County Magistrate's office, the Minister's office, and the Demon's office. They rushed to the Li River in a mighty manner. In the underwater cave residence at the Li River, Ao Run looked at the two beauties standing not far away. Each of his hands was hugging a female demon. The black carp demon drank a cup of fine wine and used her tongue to feed Ao Run. Ao Run's face was filled with enjoyment. Just as he was intoxicated by the service of the female demons beside him, a thunderous voice came from the water above. Ao Run, get out here. Ao Run spat out a mouthful of wine. The female demons were also shocked. Ao Run's name had spread throughout the East County. Who wasn't afraid of him? In the East County, no one dared to be so presumptuous on the Li River. Hearing this familiar voice, Listening Heart revealed a look of pleasant surprise and shock. They knew that Li Mu would come, but they didn't know that he would come so quickly. It had only been more than 2 hours since they were captured. In more than 2 hours, he had actually crossed thousands of miles from the divine capital to the middle county. Ao Run looked at them and realized the identity of the person who had come. He snorted and said, "It seems that your husband is in the East County. He actually came so quickly. Just wait and see how he will crawl under my feet." Li Mu and dozens of cultivators of the East County floated above the Li River. Suddenly, a figure broke out of the water. Ao Run flew out of the water and was shocked when he saw the formation above the Li River. He looked at the county chief of the East County and said warily, "Lin, what do you want to do?" Although he was confident in his strength, he was not arrogant enough to challenge all the cultivators in the East County. County Chief Lin did not speak. With that lord present, he had no right to speak first. Li Mu looked at the man in white and asked, "You are Ao Run. Wearing Xian and Ting Xian?" Ao Run looked at Li Mu and said in surprise, "You are the husband of those two beauties." Li Mu was stunned at first, but he soon realized that it must be Ting Xian's doing. He did not deliberately explain and said coldly, "Let them out." Ao Run twitched the corner of his mouth and said, "Then let's see if you have the ability. Let's have a fight. If you can beat me, I will let them out. If you lose, the two beauties will belong to me." He glanced at Lin Ting and the others and calmly said, "If you want to gang up on me with your numbers, I'll take these two beauties and leave. Let's see if I can fly faster or if you can catch up faster." The wind followed the dragon. The speed of the dragon race was second to none. The flood dragon had some bloodline of the real dragon. If he wanted to escape, even a 6th realm human would not be able to catch up with him. Li Mu was not afraid of him in terms of speed, but he did not want to bother. He asked, "How do we compete?" Ao Run puffed out his chest and said, "Don't say that I am bullying you. I will compete with you on the ground. There are no restrictions on magic power and magic treasures. If you win, you can take the beauties away. If you lose, the beauties will belong to me. Everyone here is a witness." Li Mu looked at the flood dragon in front of him. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He said, "Okay." Under Lin Ting's signal, the strong cultivators of the East County government, the Demon Division, and the Minister Division retreated to the side. They were also looking forward to seeing if the legendary figure of the Great Zhou could defeat this flood dragon. On the river's surface, Ao Run roared and attacked first. Countless water arrows shot out from the Li River and headed straight for Li Mu. Li Mu's body floated in the air. He calmly formed a seal with his hands. A circular transparent shield with flashing runes floated in front of him. The dense water arrows hit the shield and collapsed into splashes of water. At the same time, countless lightning bolts suddenly exploded beside Ao Run. He was completely submerged in the dense lightning net. Soon, the lightning net dispersed. Ao Run's clothes were tattered and burned in many places. However, his body was not injured at all. Li Mu thought to himself. The Dragon Clan was indeed the Dragon Clan. Even if it was a flood dragon, its body was probably as strong as a sixth realm monster like the Heavenly Wolf King. It might even be stronger. Such a body was simply the best material for refining corpses. If he could use it to refine corpses, Li Mu immediately suppressed this thought in his heart. He was definitely influenced by Qin Shi and the others. Whenever he saw a strong cultivator, his first reaction was to think of a way to refine their corpses. Ao Run was caught off guard by the lightning. He was in a sorry state. This attack did not cause much damage, but it was extremely humiliating. Seeing himself like a beggar, anger surged in Ao Run's heart. As his hand seals changed, a dark cloud quickly gathered above Li Mu's head. Lin Ting was worried that Li Mu would underestimate Ao Run. He hurriedly warned, "Be careful, Lord Li. This is Ao Run's Call the Wind and Summon the Rain technique. It's very powerful. Do not underestimate it." Above Li Mu's head, bean-sized raindrops were swept up by the wind and fell pitter-patter. Li Mu's body flashed with white light. The immortal robe formed a barrier around him. When the raindrops fell on the barrier, countless dents formed on it. Li Mu's gaze towards Ao Run changed slightly. This Ao Run was indeed something. This immortal robe could withstand a sixth realm attack. It was already very impressive that Ao Run's mystique could create so many dents. Chapter 502. Ao Run hid in the underwater cave, and there was endless fear in the depths of his eyes. Summoning the wind and summoning the rain was the magical power of the dragons, and it had never been taught to outsiders. How did this person learn it? What frightened him the most was not that this human knew the magical power of the dragons. His intuition told him that this person had learned it from him. Without using any incantations or gestures, this person could perfectly replicate this great magical power after watching him perform it 3 times. This incredible ability made him feel fear from the bottom of his heart. This was too strange. Driven by this fear, he did not want the beauties anymore, nor did he want the demonesses he had taken in before. He just wanted to escape along the waterway. However, just as this thought arose in his mind, the river water around the cave suddenly became shallow. At first, the cave was more than 30 meters below the surface of the river. Soon, it became 15 meters, then 20 meters. In a few breaths, the eaves of the cave were out of the water. After a few more breaths, the river water around the cave was sucked dry, leaving only a wet mark under Ao Run's feet. At some point, a transparent giant bell fell into the Li River and covered the entire cave. The river water flowed past the 2 sides of the giant bell, and the cave that was covered by the bell became a vacuum. A figure descended from the sky and landed in front of Enchanting and Ting Enchanting. Seeing that the 2 women were safe and sound, Li Mu was finally relieved. Ting Enchanting hugged Li Mu's arm with one hand and pointed at Ao Run with the other. She cried, "We were already at the East Sea, but he stopped us and forced us to marry him." "Boo-hoo," Li Mu patted her hand and said, "Don't worry. I'll avenge you." Ao Run had no fighting spirit at all. His body shook and turned into a white flood dragon. He wanted to break through the bell and escape. However, with a buzz, he was bounced back by the bell wall. Li Mu flew up, and the Dao bell suddenly shrank. The powerhouses of the East County and the two sisters passed through the bell and appeared outside. Only Limu and Ao Run were left inside the bell. Limu stretched out his hand, and a whip appeared in his hand. Swoosh! With a flick of his wrist, a whip shadow tore through the air towards Ao Run. Ao Run was extremely confident in his own body. He didn't pay any attention to it. He was thinking of a way to escape from the bell and allowed the whip to land on his body. His body did not feel much pain, but when the golden whip shadow landed on his body, the shadow of a flood dragon was knocked out of Ao Run's body. That was his demon soul. The flood dragon was startled for a moment, then fear appeared in its eyes. Just as it was about to return to its body, it suddenly felt extreme danger. It glanced over and saw a small illusory sword condense above the head of the person opposite it. His intuition told him that this small sword would take his life. The flood dragon's spirit floated in the air. Without hesitation, it bent its lower body as if it was kneeling. It nodded its head repeatedly and said in fear, "Spare me, spare me. I am willing to serve you as my master. Please spare my life." Limu didn't make a move right away. He was considering whether it was better to keep a flood dragon as a servant or to refine its corpse. The disciples of the corpse sect had refined demons and humans, but they had never refined a flood dragon. Qin and the others would definitely be interested in this project. Ao Run had already sensed that the human opposite him had bad intentions. He immediately said, "Master, you are not good at fighting in the water. In the future, I can fight in your place. I am very fast. You can also use me as a mount. You won't have to worry about traveling." It had to be said that this flood dragon had a strong desire to live. In 2 simple sentences, he had clearly stated his value. Limu was indeed not good at fighting in the water. Not only him, but all humans and demons on land were not good at fighting in the water. The water was the world of the water. Fighting in the water with the water was a very unwise choice. One couldn't always think of drawing water first. As for mounts, under normal circumstances, Limu's speed was not as fast as that of a flood dragon. Although the teleport talisman could greatly increase speed, the higher the level of the Fulu, the more expensive the talisman material needed. It was okay to use it once or twice, but Limu couldn't afford to use the Fulu every time. The spirit boat that the Empress lent him was fast. It could be called the Ferrari of spirit boats. However, it belonged to the Empress. It was also precious to 7th-level cultivators. It was the Empress' personal flying tool. The Empress only had one. Limu could borrow it in an emergency, but he couldn't just take it for himself. With a flood dragon as a mount, he wouldn't need to use any spiritual stones or mana. Limu had to admit that he was tempted by this flood dragon. He looked at Ao Run and said, "Hand over a part of your soul." Ao Run was overjoyed when he heard this. He separated a small flood dragon soul from his demon soul's forehead and slowly flew to Limu. To a cultivator, it was extremely easy to kill someone with a strand of hair, a drop of essence blood, or a fragment of soul. Since Limu possessed a fragment of the flood dragon's soul, he had the power to kill him. Ao Run's demon soul returned to his body. He knelt on one knee and saluted Limu, "Greetings, master." He was very unwilling, but there was nothing he could do. He knew very well that this young man wanted to kill him. If he hesitated for a moment and didn't show his value in time, what awaited him would be the destruction of his body and soul. Death or slavery, he wasn't stupid. He knew which was the right choice.